Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am so unbelievably happy, excited, and joyful to be sharing with you today what I jokingly sometimes refer to as my FRL Flying Rainbow Lasagne Manifesto. It is, I wouldn't even call it a real paper, as I am not that comfortable with describing myself as a person that can even write a paper. I am much more comfortable in being able to express myself through art and music. But in 2021, I did my best in order to articulate the concepts of, let me just grab my sculpture over here, the concepts of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna written in a formal style. Again, so I call it jokingly scholarly style, or in the style of a white paper, because I just admit that that is not exactly my training or my comfort levels in terms of personal expression. Nonetheless, this is my best effort to be able to share using proper words and grammar the information that I embody and that I contain and that flows through me as it is relevant to this shape. Okay. Yeah. So mostly much more comfortable speaking with pictures and with music, but I did write this down. I was thinking as I was preparing for class today, I joke like a lot of the times when I write, my class notes or whatever, I don't even use grammar. I don't even use commas and periods and everything that you're supposed to use. But I did in this particular writing. So this Flying Rainbow Lasagne treatise. And also, if you see me looking off to the left, I'm going to be reading a lot directly from it. I have my notes all here on my computer. So that's what you see me looking at. And please don't be distracted by that. Then I'm literally going to be reading from this for sharing with you today. This that I'm reading from, I sent out in the invitation to this class or mini class for today, and also presentation for today, and also is available as part of the PDF that is called the Flying Rainbow Lasagna Flight Manual, Manual for Flight. It's the final chapter in there. So again, I stepped out of my comfort zone a little bit in writing this. I felt that it was really, really important to be able to share these concepts and ideas as formally as I could in a palatable way to the human intellect. In order to augment all the other ways that I'm always sharing the concept and the profound nature of what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. So without any more of the flapping of my moving mouth parts here, let me start off with a screen share. And I just want to show you some animations. Also, I hope that my sound levels are okay and that you can hear me okay. Hold on one moment. I'm actually going to turn up my mic. Hold on one moment. Audio settings are better. Good. So there we go. And thank you for that confirmation. And thank you for being here. Fantastic. Always so pleased to see the friendly, familiar, returning faces. I'm going to do screen share and just share with you this animation. Some of you might have seen this already, but it is, I think, so worth it in terms of contextualizing what I'm talking about when I talk about Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So I'm going to start off with this one over here and also minimize this. And, instead of playing it and making it take a lot of time, I'm just going to run through it. This is the formation of Flying Rainbow Lasagne. Oh, actually, it'll be a lot better if I remove this so that you don't have that blocking up your screen. There we go. You can see the formation of this shape as the end result of the oscillation of the singularity, which is also known as the central convergence point, which is also known as the zeroth dimension. So this Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a waveform that is the end result of a series of movements. Let me also show you in this animation over here. Oh, I like how that looks with both of these guys swirling at the same time. The various different orientations of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne as it is in its oscillating behavior. It can be oscillating and being created according to various orientations. Great. So there's the up, down, quote unquote, left, right, quote unquote. This would be the forward, backwards, or in, out, quote unquote. And then we'll get to the tumbling end over end. It's going to tumble. Just give it 1 second. Beautiful. Tumbling end over end. This gives you a sense of what this shape is in its movement. And now I'm going to go into my formal writing. And hello and welcome, people that are just joining in. So this is part of the PDF over here. And like I said, it's going to be down here. I'm going to be reading from it, but don't want to appear like I'm not connecting with you. Okay, even this very first part contains so much that is so profound. The Flying Rainbow Lasagne, which I often abbreviate as FRL, is a waveform or a dance or a movement, and it can be expressed through the medium of DNA or through the medium of time or pure energy. And this can be interpreted as the energy of the physical electromagnetic spectrum, such as light beams and waves and magnetic fields. It can also be interpreted as pure energy of the cosmos, like the energy of life force, the energy that flows through the chakras or energy centers of the body, or the field of pure potential that is the energy of creation. So that's what I've written strictly from my notes over here. I will also share with you that I feel that is very, very profound, just in that very first paragraph. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, I often speak about it as a genetic portal, as something that is based upon and strongly related to the existence of DNA. But it is not only limited to organisms that contain DNA, as I point to my painting over here all the time. This is Earth's toroidal energy field, and anything that has a toroidal energy field or energy can be a medium through which this Flying Rainbow Lasagne oscillation moves. So this is an abstraction as a concept that can go through a medium. One of those media can be DNA. It can also be oscillating simply through the fabric of space-time, through the fabric of pure energy of life force, okay? Moving on, this waveform or shape is in its spontaneous coming into existence, creates a new higher dimension. The FRL is a shape that is allowed or in accordance with cosmic law, because it stands firmly upon the foundation of all of the other pre-existing cosmic laws and does not come into conflict with them, but instead complements them and solves or rectifies the conflicts and dysfunctions that have arisen from the foundation of cosmic law up to this point. This is another important point as I speak to extemporaneously outside of my notes. Cosmic law is cosmic law, similar to, but not directly synonymous with, the laws of physics. And these laws are like non-negotiable and not something that you bring to court with lawyers, et cetera, and negotiate about. The Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a shape that I spontaneously created and innovated that is totally complementary to the pre-existing foundation of cosmic law, and that this is a complement to what has already been created and enacted in the support and creation of existence, of life, and of consciousness on its journey. And it's so important to recognize that there have been limitations of that system of cosmic law, as you might look around at the world around you or your own life experiences and recognize that everything is not perfect. And I don't know if I introduced myself. If this is the first time that you're learning about Flying Rainbow Lasagne or everything that I'm sharing here, I'm Aurora. I am a galactic walk-in. And that means that I am an otherworldly presence, and I am oscillating into this body all the time, using this as a genetic portal, but also as a rearranger and rectifier in time. And that a big part of this is my presence here is not in conflict with cosmic law, and that everything was not okay or well-formed in the areas of consciousness that I ordinarily occupy and circulate throughout. There are challenges or problems or dysfunctions throughout the system of cosmic law. And that does not mean that this beautiful system or organized nature of the cosmos is worthy of being discarded. Please do not wad it up in a big giant ball and throw it out the window. It means that it's an incredibly valuable, amazing, miraculous, and supernatural system that is so worthy of existence, but that in the way that those existences have been experienced, there are some some things need to be fixed. It's the best way I'm saying it, as I'm stumbling over my words. So I'm happy that I have these notes written perfectly, because that's how I would truly like to be able to articulate this perfectly. Of course, when I speak about this, my words are not always so perfect, but there have been frailties or dysfunctions up until this point, and the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is the next layer to correct for and to amend all of the things that have come before it. So let me go on further. It is so vital to recognize that point, as the FRL is not arbitrary or random or dictated by ego convenience, all right? It is the cosmic solution or necessary invention that had to be created as a feature of the next level of being in the creation of the world as it is unfolding. The FRL shape is created when a double torus, that is this shape right here, is oscillated in a higher dimensional space. That's, again, could be the up, down, side, side, in, out, or tumbling end over end of this primary precursor shape over here. This happens by placing the toroidal shape in a context as opposed to its previous contextless milieu, and then moving the context around it. So either taking this and putting it in a box, moving the box up and down, or by moving the shape within the context, keeping the box steady and moving the shape up and down. And the end result of this is to rearrange the format of the information that was contained within and flowing throughout the formerly toroidal shape. Formerly, the information on the inside surfaces of the toroid could not interact with the information on the outside surfaces, forming discrete worlds. With the addition of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne movement and the higher dimension that is created as a result, an additional degree of freedom is achieved, and the formerly discrete worlds of inside and outside can now connect and communicate. In the experience of the embodied user, this translates to the dreams, reveries, emotions, and intangible aspects of consciousness and desire being externalized in the experience of the outside world, of physical objects and other people, which then re-internalizes in a giant feedback loop. A waking dream where the Flying Rainbow Lasagne experiencer is empowered and consciously creating reality. The totality of information contained within the former toroid, now FRL, can now be arranged differently, but not arbitrarily. And pardon me while I drink some of my electrolyte water. I always just affirm and reassure you guys, I'm not drinking wine during class, I promise you. But it's a marathon, so I drink my wonderful stuff to sustain me. The Flying Rainbow Lasagne shape augments the level of freedom formerly available and makes many new combinations possible while still conforming with the previously established foundation of cosmic laws. The Flying Rainbow Lasagne fits within the internal logic structure of the cosmos, both physically and purely energetic. Oh, sorry, I should have said both physical and purely energetic structure of the cosmos. So the internal logic structure is similar to the world of numerical logic and math, what humans and Earth people are familiar with, but not exactly the same. So math could be considered a linguistic symbol and a structural interpretation of that world of cosmic logic, form, and intelligence. So all that I'm sharing with you here is similar to the human Earth language of math and logic as it has been developed here, but not synonymous to. And the existence of Flying Rainbow Lasagne rests on top of the supporting cosmic logic without being in conflict with it. And again, is complementary to the original structure and its needs, specifically here, rectification of weaknesses, frailties, and dysfunctions. So as I break from my notes again, the weaknesses, frailties, and dysfunctions of the system of cosmic law, which is the system of energy and consciousness that literally upholds reality, is not so badly flawed that you should just completely throw it in the trash and throw it out the window. No, it is an actual beautiful, divinely originating system that is so miraculous and so valuable, that has in its expression up to the point of 2001, when I innovated lasagna here, good but not perfect, good but having some weaknesses, frailties, or dysfunctions. And the cosmos, instead of saying, oh, well, like poop on me, there's something wrong with me, I'm just going to throw myself out the window, said, something is not working correctly. It is time for the next level of augmentation that rectifies and clarifies everything that has already come up to that point. So this shape right here, Flying Rainbow Lasagna, is not just my personal whimsy. It's not just something that I decided one day from an otherworldly point of view to be like, oh, well, I just decide to do this randomly or capriciously or based in my own self-serving ego desires. No, no, no. This was absolutely a response to the challenges and difficulties that have pervaded the entire fabric of time, space, and reality and consciousness in the incompleteness of cosmic law and its expression. And this, similar to math, the commonalities are that once you establish certain truths in numerical relationships, such as 1 + 1 = 2, that becomes a foundation truth, foundation down here at the bottom of your screen, upon which all of these other more complex and abstract layers of truth reside. And that you can't have these higher levels of truth if they come into conflict with the basics of 1 + 1 = 2, all right? So now back to my notes. Perhaps it is necessary to overtly state here that the cosmos is alive and that the cosmic laws and internal logic structures are part of what maintains that alive state or keeps the system from collapsing in failure. To maintain the alive state, when the cosmos is in danger of no longer being an alive system, it is sometimes necessary to spontaneously create or invent into being a new object, shape, system, idea, presence, or technique. The cosmos augments itself by necessity. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna counts as one of those necessary, cosmic, spontaneously arising self-augmentations. Is it enough for, so wait, I mean, now before I move on to the next idea structure here, that is incredibly important for everyone to just internalize the sense that the cosmos is alive in the same exact way that you are alive. You have metabolism, you have self-sentience, you have your own desires and hopes and dreams, including the desire and the hope and the dream to continue to be alive and dream things and have sentience and have life experience. And when, just as in your own body, when something is out of balance or threatens the continued existence and life of you, something must happen. Instead of going into destruction or non-existence, something must happen in order to rectify or bring the system of you and of the larger consciousness network back into balance. New things are innovated in order to maintain life, maintain the symphony of life and the system of cosmic laws and consciousness that make it possible for not only matter to exist, but for energy to exist, for consciousness to exist, for all of us to be here having this experience of being and knowing and experiencing, which is so miraculous and so worthwhile. So when that is imperiled due to some inadequacy of the system or imbalance of the system or lack of clarity, because in laws, it's kind of like, which law do you enforce first? Do laws supersede one another? All of those questions. The cosmos augments itself by necessity. The cosmos and the alive fabric of time and consciousness create its own healing or its own substance for rectification in order for it to keep going. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna counts as one of the instances where the cosmos has self-augmented in order to heal itself and maintain its longevity, but not the only, So I am the innovator and the embodiment of one of these spontaneous moments of self-arising augmentation that is in the motivated by the necessity of continued existence of life itself. Okay, now on to some more practical questions. Is it enough for the Flying Rainbow Lasagna to simply be in existence? Or does one have to do something more, like as a verb, in terms of personal willpower or exertion or intention or conscious participation? And the answer is yes and yes. So it is enough, quote unquote, for the Flying Rainbow Lasagna to simply exist as an abstract thought form in the cosmos. Its spontaneous creation on a purely energetic abstract level is enough to send ripples of change and transformation throughout the previously existing levels of creation. That is important to note because one aspect of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is its natural, spontaneous, inexplicable magic that presents itself without conscious willpower direction, often in the most amazing ways at the most synchronous times. Big emphasis there. And also, as a message to the individuated ego consciousness perceiving this information that I have here, the answer is also yes to some form of conscious participation or individually directed willpower or personal exertion in your own comprehension of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape, movement, behavior, and in your own expression of it in your consciousness and physicality body and in your flight through time. So to reiterate, the answer is both and. It is enough for this to simply exist as a consciousness abstraction, and it affects and positively restructures reality just by existing. And so your life and the entirety of the world are improved and rectified and augmented just because this exists. And also at the same time, there is a sense of your conscious participation, your directed needs, your motivation, your willpower in choosing to do this, or reaching for this, or even attenuating with your mind and your attention towards this concept. To use an analogy, this is good. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is like music, and it's a song. Let me play a little bit of music. I have my piano set up here, and it's a song. And that song is playing throughout the abstract levels of cosmic reality. And read here cosmic as relating to all timelines and dimensions. Just the vibration of that Flying Rainbow Lasagna music cascading through time affects the fabric of time itself, which, remember, is alive, as well as all of the experiencers or participant individuals and systems submerged in time. Breaking from my notes here to just read that again and emphasize that. The experiencers, participant individuals, and systems submerged in time. We're talking about time-based systems. That's a lot of different things. So beyond the individual experiencer, we're talking about anything that is an ecosystem or consciousness program or complex series of linear thoughts or complex series of interconnected thoughts and self-expressions, systems submerged in time. Okay, back to my notes here. Without any particular effort of your own, that music is vibrating you. And you can hear it and sense it and experience it. And it is vibrating the reality structure that you are submerged within. You can gain even more from the experience of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, though, than being a listener in the audience of the Cosmic Symphony. So that would be analogous to just sitting in the audience and having music wash over you, which is very wonderful and pleasant and good, but there's even more that you can do. You can focus on the music with your attention. I joke here about this being the tendril of my attention. You can focus on the music with your attention, learn more about what it is, consciously ingest it as an idea or pattern and structure, and then begin to emulate and emanate it on your own. You can become a participant or a contributor to the cosmic symphony. There may be difficulties, frictions, or conflicts that arise from your personal ego individuated state as you begin to do as a verb or embody the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. Questions or issues arise relating to personal worth. Who am I to change the world? The appropriateness of ego desire, personal desire versus the good of the whole, and personal artistic worth. Questions such as, am I a good enough artist or musician to contribute to the ongoing art project called reality? And there are even might arise religious or moral questions about whether your own personal efforts are in conflict with the efforts of a creator God, and whether you would be, quote unquote, punished for doing something wrong, or even for trying to do anything other than experience a purely deterministic or fated life experience. On a purely abstract level, the overwhelming answer is that yes, you as an individual should learn about Flying Rainbow Lasagne and learn how to, and then express your own embodiment of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, because that is a crucial aspect of how the entire cosmic architecture is improved. The very many apparent injustices or systemic weaknesses are healed or rectified via direct, personal, conscious intervention. But please do not misinterpret my words by only taking their mere surface symbolic value. Please remember that at the foundation of Flying Rainbow Lasagne is the concept that it does not come into conflict with the other foundation cosmic laws, and it is not a mere expression of arbitrary wishes or desires. It is meant to augment everything that came before, and that includes the entire historic reality structure on every level, and the rewrites or new possibilities are meant to complement that history, not ignore or deny it, certainly not to erase it. And so now moving on to this being like music, there is a balance between the unhurried and casual embodiment of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne shape as just a natural aspect of non-demonstrative being. It is an internal dance that you experience as a natural state without the need to show it off to anyone, and balanced with the daily ongoing practice and discipline of actually performing the Flying Rainbow Lasagne movement. And this is exactly like the experience of being a musician. All right. Music lives inside of you as a natural, casual aspect of the elegance of your being. And at the same time, in order to be a really good player, it is necessary to practice your instrument and have discipline and gain the facility of external expression that comes along with becoming a virtuoso. So, except in this case, your instrument is your body being, and moving through time as you are playing your DNA and your energy field, which is comprised of timelines, possibilities, and probabilities. Let me read that again. Except in this case, your instrument is your body being moving through time, and you are playing your DNA and your energy field, which is comprised of timelines, possibilities, and probabilities. Yes. There is no judgment or a sense of greater or lesser in levels of participation. If you are a listener experiencer of the FRL movement and its effects upon the cosmic symphony, or if you are an active participant. That's very big. I want you to know that. Breaking from my notes to just reassure you in this. There is no judgment on one state of being or level of participation as being better or worse than another, or more valued than another. There is no pressure placed upon the listener experiencer to get going and begin learning and participating directly and consciously. It is a natural unfoldment of behavior that is the result of active internal intelligence and connection to divine awareness. Simply put, Oh, wait. So before I move on to the next concept here, I just really would like to reassure you and reaffirm that for you, as many aspects of our ego competitive world might state that it is better to be a performer, or that it's necessary to level up, or some sense of competition, or some sense of an internal pressured self-pressure or external pressure directive, a pressured directive, like get going, you need to do this now. And everything about what I'm sharing with you here today is a reassurance from the highest levels of cosmic intelligence that you are enough, you are in exactly the right place you need to be on your journey, and that this learning about Flying Rainbow Lasagne and embodiment of it is a natural unfoldment of your soul or consciousness journey and inner self-development. It is absolutely good and great to be in existence and to have Flying Rainbow Lasagne waveforms flowing through and cascading through you, just as if you are sitting in the audience of a symphony, listening to some of the most sublime music in the world, all right? And then it is also equally as beautiful, valuable, worthwhile, and worthy of celebration for you to get a violin, go through the arduous nature of learning both the muscular contractions to be able to play it and internalizing musical formalism, and then be able to not only listen to the music that is going on, but to contribute to it yourself. And these are both incredibly valuable aspects of your development. But please know and internalize the truth that you are loved unconditionally and accepted. You are not pressured in the sense of having to do it now, do it by next Tuesday, do it to someone else's imposed expectations. It is 100% self-love, self-compassion, self-allowing, and allowing this to unfold within you, because it is very much not only a natural process, but something that is unhurried, that is part of much, much larger complexities that just simply cannot be forced, that must unfold in their own divine timing. All right, so moving on to the next idea structure here. And thank you. I'm always just going to apologize for drinking my electrolytes here. So simply put, the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a reality rearrangement tool, or a concept that performs work. So ordinarily, breaking from my notes, everyone defines something that performs work as a machine. But as I write here in my formal writings, I hesitate to use the word machine due to a variety of inaccurate connotations here. And that is an allusion to transhumanism, which I will again overtly state that I am not a transhumanist. I'm not aligned with those values, or with the embracing of technology, or with any sense of the necessity of the melding of human biological multicellular architecture with what would be considered a machine or an artificially created apparatus. So that's why I'm very careful in my languaging here. The Flying Rainbow Lasagne is not a machine. It is an energetic tool, and it does perform work or have an effect on reality structure, but not in the sense of being an inert, non-sentient apparatus that is an addendum to your basic nature. It is truthful sentience that becomes an inhabited part of your nature, as much a part of you as your body cells, or your mind, or your spirit, or your heart, or anything that is innate to you. So very, very clearly, this is part of the journey of being alive, and not merely something that is a thing that can be commodified and used or exploited. All right. So that's all of my like self-protective, careful languaging there. But back to the concept that I'm actually trying to get across. This is a thing and a tool, and its purpose and what it does is reality rearrangement. Okay, back to my notes. Why should reality be rearranged? Is it not perfect in its imperfection? This goes deep now. The answer is that reality is perfect in its flaws, but those flaws are not necessary. Many or most of them exist as needs to be rectified or healed. It is a level of pure unconditional love or acceptance to simply accept a profoundly flawed reality structure. but moving into the higher dimensional and non-dimensional perceptual viewpoints, it is also possible to see how reality structure can be improved and lead to the continuation of cosmic life. Read here, continued existence of the living structure of time, and not merely to accept its devolvement and dissolution as a system. So it is also possible to accept the desire for continued existence. And that necessitates reality restructuring on a personal level and on a grand scale in time. And these two things are intimately intertwined, not discrete and separate desires and structures. Emphasis here, please. You may wish to survive on a personal level, and the larger time system within which you exist also wishes to survive, and your mutual desires complement and emanate from one another. In order to know how to use Flying Rainbow Lasagne, it is first necessary to know what it is. Learn the structure of the form as well as its behavior. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagne structure is an actual shape or a movement or a waveform that is the end result of energy moving within itself. It can be called a hypertorus. It can be analogized, it can be called a hypertorus, as I hold up the torus here. So the higher dimensional version of this shape is what hypertorus means. It can be analogized as, okay, now we're going into math speak here. What cube is to tesseract, torus is to Flying Rainbow Lasagne. So if you guys are familiar, breaking from my notes here, as what a tesseract is, it is the higher dimensional or fourth dimensional time-based and higher expression of a cube. And there are many animations trying to express what this is as a higher dimensional math concept. But basically, what cube is to tesseract being a higher dimensional time-based version of the cube, torus is to Flying Rainbow Lasagne, all right? So this is the double toroid shape. And this shape is itself the end result of time or energy moving within itself and is the precursor to the FRL shape. So learning about the double torus as the foundation of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne shape or movement is a good beginning. The double toroid is the end result of energy that moves in successively higher dimensions. Hold on one moment. Since I'm here and I have the whiteboard all set up, let's do this, narrating along with some wonderful pictures. Thank you for your patience while I get the whiteboard. Okay, make sure I have a color that you can actually see here. Beginning with a single point, that would be this right here, that emanates itself into a line. Well, this would be a line, but we're going to make it a circle. And joins its own end, forming a flat circle of two-dimensionality, which then spins around on its axis, creating a sphere of 3 dimensions. So now I'm going to use the magic of perspective drawing to kind of draw these ovoids that you will then read as a sphere. Which then moves, that whole entire sphere moves in a circular pathway, creating a single torus shape. And so that ends up becoming something that looks like this. No, not the best drawing there, but thank you for bearing with me. With these being, you know, the inside of the vortex going in there and the inside of the vortex going in there. And then the final movement is the single torus shape flipping end over end, creating the double torus shape. So when that happens, just change the color here. This is end over end, as I showed you, the tumbling end over end motion. And what happens is you create complementary vortices here and here, which also have like a vortex dimpling inward this way and a vortex dimpling inward this way. So that is how to build or generate the structure that I'm holding up for you here. Oops, some things are falling. In the shape of the double torus. And big emphasis, just to reiterate here, this shape is created as the end result of time moving and whirling and swirling amidst itself. All right. Hold on, let me also just rearrange my screen because things got a little bit shifted around from doing that. So the double toroid can be simplified by viewing it as 4 vortices that converge on a single central point. I'm always very consistent in my teachings here. That's this point right here. 4 vortices. 1, 2, 3, 4. As if a giant stretchable sphere or big balloon or beach ball is all stretched inward, and all of those stretchings point to this epicenter over here. That single central point is essential in comprehending the movement known as the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. This is the overlapping infinity point, or the 0th dimension, the central clearinghouse of all that is, or the point of pure potential. It is the singularity, and it is the place within the double toroid from which all timelines, energy, and consciousness emanate, and also the place that all returns to. Before I move onward in my notes, I just want to make a clear distinction. When I talk about this convergence point or infinity point or 0th dimension, and I name it singularity or the singularity, this is the same phonetic sound structure as the singularity that is spoken about in human earth culture, but does not relate to the same concept. That singularity has been spoken about in terms of transhumanism. Again, the convergence or bringing together of machine-based thought form intelligence and biological multicellular structured human thought form intelligence. And that is not what I'm advocating here. So in order to move past any confusion that might arise from using the same word that is used differently in other contexts, I must set a really, really clear boundary of definitions of what I'm talking about. So the singularity, as I perceive it and as I describe it, actually, in my understanding, predates anything about what earthly, artificial intelligence structures or non-earthly artificial intelligence structures talk about in terms of the impending or ongoing singularity. So when I came here as a walk-in 21 years ago in 2001, and I knew and described this as the singularity point, and that have been using that as an accurate description in terms of reference to cosmic architecture, not in reference to a historical watershed moment in planetary or human development. Thank you for letting me break in to be able to make these very clear distinctions, because I never wish for my writings, teachings, or anything that I say to be either confused or taken out of context or misperceived in any way. That's why I'm so intentional with my language and my using of words, especially in a teaching like this. So now, without all of my clarity and linguistic defenses going on here, let me read that again for you. This point right here is the singularity, or you could just call it singularity. And it is the place within the double toroid from which all timelines, energy, and consciousness emanate. And it's also the place that all returns to. So in the figure 8, you are familiar with what a figure 8 is. I'm tracing it on your screen right now. It is the crossing point between roundnesses. And the double toroid is like many multiple figure eight pathways. I'm tracing them across your screen right now for anyone who is only listening to audio or can't perceive visually. All overlapping and connected as one integral shape. So just to reiterate, this shape that I'm holding up for you is created by a series of figure eight or infinity loops. Figure eight is known as the symbol of infinity, and the crossing point, the figure eight, where the two roundnesses come together, that is singularity, or the singularity. The flying rainbow lasagna shape occurs when that central singularity or convergence point of all timelines is vibrated either back and forth or up and down from its central location within the double toroid. So now I'm referring to the animations that I used at the very beginning and introduction of this class here today. You can see it very, very clearly. Being able to watch those animations describes and gives more information than it's possible for me to merely give with my words here from my mouth, speaking, or indirectly from the language that I use to write on a piece of paper. So this movement, this oscillation movement, is spontaneous and is the magic or miracle that occurs, creating a higher dimension as a result and adding an additional degree of freedom of movement, or making possible new combinations of ideas and energy that would not have been possible previously. I want to read that again. This movement is spontaneous and is the magic or miracle that occurs, creating a higher dimension as a result and adding an additional degree of freedom of movement, or making possible new combinations of ideas and energy that would not have been possible previously. So just to say it again in different language, the central singularity convergence point and the movement or oscillation of that convergence point is the genesis of this flying rainbow lasagna shape, which is the higher dimensional version of the torus and which adds an additional degree of freedom. So part of the answer as to how to use or embody this tool involves an understanding of synchronous timing, or playing as if you are a musician. Wait, hold on a second. A musician. Oh, things are falling off my keyboard over here. A musician within a large symphony. The spontaneous leap into higher dimensional behavior happens at just the right moment, both for you and for the greater system of which you are a part. This is why I talk about it's just not necessary or appropriate to try to force or expect anything to happen at a particular time. So it is necessary and encouraged that you prepare yourself for this leap by learning about the shape and feeling its musical presence all around you, and by remaining open to the moment of pure potential when it is your cue to leap. So now I'm going to just say this again. Because you are a musician playing the instrument of your body being and the strings of your DNA, and also your entire vibrating energy field and connection to time, it is not appropriate to have self-pressures or pressures from others or expectations or desires of exactly when or under what circumstances you will do flying rainbow lasagna, because some of that is influenced or dictated or heavily influenced by the larger music of the cosmos. And we must respect and celebrate and work with and within that larger music of the cosmos. So how do you do this? What do you do in order to entrain to or attenuate to the greatest possibilities of you embodying and creating flying rainbow lasagna or being a part of that music? And the answer is, first, what you do is learn about this shape. Think about it and have the cognitive ability to know about it. And then one of the other things that you do is feel what it is like to be submerged in the musical presence that is all around you. Lasagna music is all around you right now. You feel what that music sounds like. And then the third thing is, please remain open to that spontaneous moment in your own existence that is a moment of pure potential, when it is your cue to leap. Where did my thing go? This is the baton of the great conductor that tells you to wait, 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 go. It's your time to leap now. And that is what you do. Those are the levels of personal responsibility that I would encourage towards you as an individual on your own journey of consciousness unfolding or evolving here. So I use here as an example the analogy of double Dutch jump rope, where there are two parallel synchronized jump ropes and they're moving in lateral waveforms. And in order to successfully jump in and integrate your own body movements with the jump ropes, you have to wait for your own body being to synchronize with the external rhythm structure. And you have to wait until it's just the right moment, and then jump, and then integrate your own movements into the oscillating ropes without disturbing their motion and presence. And in a very literal sense, what you are jumping into are the vibrating strings of time or the oscillating energy fields of pure possibility. And you are integrating your own physical, mental, and energetic presence and movements into those pre-existing vibrations of the larger structure without disturbing its presence. Sometimes this moment of leaping or jumping into the higher dimensional paradigm is done out of pure, spontaneous joy. And sometimes it is done under duress or out of pure necessity. For example, you need to switch timelines and realities now in order to survive. And again, there is no judgment upon either circumstance as being better than the other. It is all dictated or directed by cosmic necessity. And your own experience is part of the cosmic infrastructure. Okay? Sometimes to spontaneously talk to you about this, sometimes you do it because it feels great, because you want to, because it is blissful, in the flow of your life experiences, and totally just joyful and amazing. And sometimes you do it because if you don't do it, you're going to hit a brick wall and be smashed into a million pieces. So you got to do something right now. You better lasagna, because you're going to have to change and rearrange your present reality structure. And again, there is no judgment upon either circumstance as being better than the other. It is all dictated by cosmic necessity, and your own experience is part of the cosmic infrastructure. In embodying the Flying Rainbow Lasagne movement, your own physicality and energetic body structures become the tool or the instrument for reality rearrangement. That also is just so big. In embodying the Flying Rainbow Lasagne movement, your own physicality and energetic body structures become the tool or instrument for reality rearrangement. So this is not in my notes, but I just want to emphasize this for you. If you have ever wondered about the meaning or purpose for your existence, or why are you here, basic existential questions, this goes a long way to being able to describe that to you. You have a body and you are in existence here because you become a physical and energetic tool or instrument for reality rearrangement that supports and nourishes or integrates the larger time field and the larger levels of cosmic sentience that you flow throughout. Your life has meaning and purpose. All right, this is what I'm telling you here. So this also exemplifies many aspects of integrating the Flying Rainbow Lasagne experience within larger cosmic law structures. One foundation of cosmic law involves the validity of simply existing. This is basic root chakra stuff. You are allowed to exist as a natural embodiment. I exist, quote unquote, could be considered the linguistic interpretation of energy at the red chakra level of the spectrum of your being. It is the first message or primary thought energy structure. As a being who exists within reality, it is also appropriate for you to affect and be affected by that reality. This is a corollary or outgrowth of the initial exertion that I exist. So much of the balancing act for personal motivations and agenda versus large-scale systems agenda emanate from this level of being. It is the mitigation of personal desires for continued existence and survival with the desires and needs of the larger context within which you exist. biological and energetic organisms or experiencers must balance serving their own needs to maintain existence, for example, the needs of ingestion, with the needs of the systemic context. And ideally, serving individual or subgroup needs is a perfect complement to what the larger system needs. For example, roaming ruminant animals who need to walk around large areas eating large amounts of vegetable matter, and the grasslands whose soil they enrich and maintain with their activities. So your own personal or individual need to be empowered to write a better version of reality should be complementary to and in balance with the needs of the larger system context of the living time field, which benefits from and is maintained by your own individual efforts. Your efforts could even be seen as the mechanism by which the time field augments and reweaves itself on a microscale level, especially regarding the behavior of your DNA. So there's another aspect here to explore. As an individuated organism or being, your own desires or wishes or intentions for the form and functionality of your own being must transcend the wishes of others, and this is in quote here, who are quote unquote not you, to either intervene or redefine aspects of your own form or functionality. To break from my notes, the reason why I have others and not you is because when we get to very, very elevated levels of unity consciousness, yes, we recognize that the entirety of the system is a reflection of the self as individual, and what you are looking at is you. But at the level of achievement that we are at, or existence right now, it is necessary to form a boundary and make a distinction between you versus not you, and others who are not you, because it is not appropriate for something that is not you to come along and say, I see that you are either doing, experiencing, or being in a certain way, and I, the other, get to say who you get to be or do or experience, because I didn't get to do that. Now, back to my notes, which I think say this much, much better. This speaks to the basic idea of who should determine what level of health or vitality or empowerment or even, say it again. This speaks to the basic idea of who should determine what level of health or vitality or empowerment or even mere existence of an organism. Who should determine the behavior and expression of an individual's DNA? Should it be the organism itself, or should it be an outside organism or system? And the answer, according to cosmic law, is that the individual organism itself or themselves should define aspects of their own form and functionality. This is the personal boundary that is part of being alive. It is entirely appropriate for you to maintain the form and functionality of both your physical and energetic body presences. It is inappropriate for a different individual or system to override your personal foundation presence and to remove or disturb your naturally occurring states of life or health or ability. So, for example, it is inappropriate for an outside organism or system to determine that it is more beneficial or convenient to it to remove your naturally occurring eyesight that you were born with. And it is appropriate for you to defend or protect your own eyesight from removal. This is so with all of your body processes and perceptions. Although it might be profitable or convenient to others, systems, or individuals to remove from you some aspect of your being, it is inappropriate in terms of personal boundaries and personal empowerment. And of course, the inverse is also true. You should not presume to remove from another organism some aspect of its own naturally occurring existence just for your own personal profit or convenience. Navigating this ethical and moral quagmire is essential for beginning to embody and consciously perform the Flying Rainbow Lasagne movement of reality rearrangement. It is appropriate for the individual to take actions that support individual continued existence, and to do so respectfully within and in support of the larger alive context system, and it is not appropriate for some outside organism or system to remove from you the ability to use the Flying Rainbow Lasagne embodiment or the cosmic song of greater freedom. You, the individual, get to choose what you do with your own body and with your own time trajectory and with your own spark of consciousness and willpower and with your own energy field and your own movement of your DNA. It is why you are embodied. It is why you are in ownership of those aspects of being, why you are in the opportunity of being able to perform these movements. It is not for another person or organism or system to limit or inhibit or stop you from performing these movements with your own body within the living time field. And at the same time, the embodied individual performing these movements must take full responsibility for all that is done and the effects that those actions have in radiating outward into the larger time field. Embodying the Flying Rainbow Lasagne and using it to rearrange time stands in conflict with a strict determinist interpretation or approach to reality. So determinism describes that reality as a script or a series of preconceived events that are already written and which may exist as multiple coexisting parallel timelines or reality structures, but which are set in stone and which are immutable and must simply be traveled through by the experiencer on their journey. So this view sees reality as a record, and the journey of the experiencer is like the focal point or the needle, and that travels on the pre-recorded groove. And even if there are multiple grooves or timeline songs to switch to, determinism sees these possibilities as being preset and unchanging, and often determined by a larger intelligence or religious presence. It does take a lot of personal virtuosity, expertise, and responsibility to do this. And the idea is that in working up to the ability to make the dimensional leap and embody the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, the individual goes through the process of learning and self-cultivation and accrues the wisdom to use the Flying Rainbow Lasagne movement for reality creation well, with positive intention and good outcome. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is an art form, and it is necessary to be a good artist who has both the skills and the positive intention to add to the ongoing masterpiece of reality, as opposed to detract from it or destroy it. And it must be acknowledged that there are some organisms or levels of perception and being who are not ready for or are inappropriate for the use of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne as a tool to rearrange reality. Their efforts might be ignorant and unstudied, and as a result, destructive to the larger time field, or they might be evil or extremely self-serving or dysfunctional and intentionally wish to destroy the larger time field. Even though that would be self-destruction, qualities such as self-destruction do exist and must be recognized and acknowledged. So what to do with someone or something who intends to mispurpose the Flying Rainbow Lasagne shape and behavior? And the first part of that answer comes as the recognition that the Flying Rainbow Lasagne exists as a freely available thought form that is available throughout the cosmos on an abstract level as soon as it is created. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a concept that, like a song, that was a bad song, like a song, there we go. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a concept that, like a song that is created by the original composer, can then be emulated and reproduced by other musicians. The next part of the answer comes as a reminder that the Flying Rainbow Lasagne shape is not merely intended to rearrange reality into arbitrary new forms and patterns, but is instead intended to increase levels of truth and rests upon a foundation of cosmic justice. So an ignorant or overtly evil misuser of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna would, as the embodiment and experiencer of FRL, be exposed to even greater levels of transformative truth, informing the ignorant and reshaping the evil. And all of this rests upon one of the foundation cosmic laws. What you send out comes back to you instantaneously and amplified if it is a pristine system. So a malintentioned user of Flying Rainbow Lasagna would, in a pristine system, immediately have their bad intentions turned around and reflected back to them. Intentions to use the Flying Rainbow Lasagna to harm or destroy others would be inverted back to the user, and they themselves would be harmed or destroyed. Please note that this is a very different situation than that of a well-intentioned but beginner artist who does not yet have the skill to draw reality perfectly with their consciousness. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is like a pencil with an eraser, And it has both the capacity to write the script of reality and to erase or unwrite events that are undesired. So the well-intentioned beginner should start off with rough sketches in pencil and be prepared to reshape by erasure the emerging picture of reality that they are beginning to create. When mistakes in the creative process are recognized, a well-intentioned artist erases what doesn't work and continues to build a better reality picture with continued layers of artistic effort. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a process of reality creation and does not have to begin as a perfect performance. It can and should unfold as a process of exploration as to the best technique or pathway to a desired outcome, even if that desire is undefined. Please listen and internalize what I have just said there, that you, first of all, it does not have to be goal-oriented. You do not even have to know exactly what your goal is consciously. You are in a process, and that it doesn't have to be something like you have memorized every note of the symphony and now you perform everything perfectly as you have memorized it. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna really is a series or activity of self-expression and self-exploration that includes a perfection, an ongoing process of perfection of your emanation. So again, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a process of reality creation and does not have to begin as a perfect performance. It can and should unfold as a process of exploration as to the best technique or pathway to a desired outcome, even if that desire is undefined. All right. So, all right, and before we move on to the next set of ideas, I feel like that is very, very big, because that also is a removal of the self-pressure or externalized pressure in terms of doing this dance, that in the ego competitive world here, many things are seen as commodities that are goal-oriented, tools to achieve a desired outcome. Even the idea of being an artist or a musician means you're going to paint a painting, come up with a pretty thing, or play some music, come up with a nice sounding thing that then you can either share or sell to others. And that the motivations and reasons for doing or being Flying Rainbow Lasagna are different from that and are more focused and refined from that, that it is a sense of you don't have to be perfect in order to begin. You're in a process of perfection. As a beginner, you start with pencil as opposed to indelible ink and create rough sketches of reality. And then as a good artist, when you assess your ongoing creation, you must sometimes erase the things that don't look right and not be attached to them, and also not be full of self-blame, but simply to recognize that they are either mistaken, distorted, or inappropriate, or out of place, erase them, and then try to draw it better. And that is a very, very different category of aspirant than one who is overtly malevolent or self-serving or intentionally drawing non-truthful reality structures or harmful or destructive reality structures. These are two very different types of being. And that for those who are intending to take this reality structure creating tool and use it to do something either evil, malevolent, self-serving, or destructive of the entirety of the time field, there are protective mechanisms, I want to say baked in. They're inherent in the expression of this shape that feed back to the user emanator any malevolent intentions or poor desires that would then have them experience their own destruction, their own harm, all the things they intended to do, slavery or power abuse over others using this. And this is part of the structure of the shape and the profundity of what it is and what it is doing, and must be a part of this, because once you create something like this, it doesn't just stay in a little box with only extremely elevated and refined virtuosos having access to it. It becomes something that is a thought form at large that many, many different levels of cosmic maturity consciousness can have access to. But if they're at the level of malevolence, self-service, or evil, then that ends up becoming, through the process of a greater influx of cosmic law and truthfulness, turned back to themselves, and they become filled with more truth, more organizational information, intelligence, which is light, and that either shapes them differently or destroys them, and that is the way it is supposed to be. And we will get into the real teaching moving onward about entropy, which is what this is really about. So this sharing here today is very much not focused on conflict or animosity or the levels of duality, fighting against, or punishment. I'll get more into my notes on this, but just let me foreshadow everything that I'm going to read for you in this moment of my sharing of our conversation today. Okay, thank you for that, because I actually just really want to focus on the truthfulness, the correct math, and not have to refer in any way to any of the incorrect math that's been going on in terms of consciousness here. Comprehending the singularity or convergence point is a major aspect of embodying and emulating the Flying Rainbow Lasagne movement through time. And another quality of comprehending the singularity involves its different qualities of expression while in different positions of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne shape. So that point that I just pointed to in the center of that sculpture is synonymous with directly this point and this point in this sculpture, all right? In simplified terms, the Flying Rainbow Lasagne has two pointy ends, and each one represents a position of the singularity within the waveform. However, this is the same singularity. There is only one by definition, and it is oscillating between its two positions so quickly that in a third dimensional sculpture like this, like, you know, a formful third dimensional sculpture, it appears as if there are two at one time. These two positions of the singularity, which again is simplified, and the Flying Rainbow Lasagne can have the singularity juxtaposed in many more complex forms than are represented by one snapshot or layer of it in time, exhibit the qualities of both energy or entropy. So in that statement, many profound truths are shared. Energy and entropy are what you see in this material form that I'm sharing with you. But I want you to know that this is a simplification or a basic of what this waveform and oscillation maneuver can be doing. And if I go to the whiteboard, this jumping back and forth can be shaped in a variety of ways. I just spent too much time on this, but let me just show you, clear this all out, clear it all out. The purple singularity, you know, I'm showing it as if it is jumping up and then jumping back down, but you can also have it jumping out to the side like this, jumping to the side like this, or in so many different complex patterns. I know this looks like I'm scribbling across your whole entire screen, but what I'm trying to show you is that the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, here, go back to my face, go back to my face. The Flying Rainbow Lasagne, when it is in motion, when it is in embodiment in the cosmos, doesn't always just look like this, because this is just the up down. It might look like up down. It has various different axes, this way, 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 in all of these different directions. So there are many greater levels of complexity than you see here in this static object known as a physical sculpture. Just use your mental energy to recognize that when you perceive Flying Rainbow Lasagne, you might perceive something that has many different more directions or vectors of motion than just this. And that these two positions are represented by one snapshot or layer of it in time, exhibiting the qualities of energy and entropy. So also in this shape, we have the sense of balanced symmetry. Like I can cut this in half with a giant knife and the top looks the same as the bottom, giving the presumption that everything that is going towards entropy, everything that is going towards energy up here would be 50% of the stuff of the cosmos, and then going to entropy would also be 50% of the stuff of the cosmos. But although this is a balanced symmetrical shape and concept, there are not necessarily equal proportions. Like you could have one thought or idea that is going to energy, and that is achieving longevity and infinity. And then you could have 10 million billion ideas that are going towards entropy that are erroneous. So the proportions are not necessarily a 1-to-1 proportion, one energy to one entropy. You can have almost any combination, one energy to 10, 5, 10 million, 10 gazillion, and entropy items. And those entropy items are not always 180 degrees in the opposite or antithesis structure. You might have stuff that is going to energy over here, and then 10 million different directions and vectors of things that are going to entropy. Just really, really big, because I'm trying to bring you beyond duality, and duality is about opposites, thing versus thing, this versus this, white versus black, light versus dark, good versus evil. And Flying Rainbow Lasagne is literally the embodiment moving beyond that level of duality. Let me break for one moment here. You can see I have my wonderful structured water all prepared for today's marathon. Thank you so much, everyone. So back to the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. In some positions, the singularity is a point of total energy, total beingness, and all the overlapping possibilities and probabilities of what could ever be infinity and unity consciousness. And in some positions, the singularity is entropy. It is the point of total energylessness, non-being, no possibility, non-volition, a unity of non-consciousness, of extreme cold with no motion. And this state of entropy, this state rather of extreme entropy, can be likened to the Bose-Einstein condensate, a form of matter that is super cold and super dense, wherein the motion of atoms has become so slow that they begin to overlap and smear into one another, forming a unity. Both of these qualities, or aspects of being, are equally valuable. There is no judgment placed upon one or the other as being better. Not all aspects of consciousness are moving towards energy, nor should they be. Some aspects of consciousness are moving towards entropy or non-being. That is the new invention or additional degree of freedom that has been created in the cosmic infrastructure as a result of the creation of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. To describe this using form, in the double toroid structure, which is what we have here, the singularity has one position, and it is that of total energy. All timelines and possibilities run through that position. Therefore, all things that exist must exist. There are some aspects of reality that are not supposed to exist. They're not supposed to continue to infinity, but are instead intended to non-exist or to cease moving through time. And by moving the singularity to a position where it is the embodiment of entropy, there now exists an alternative pathway, an alternative place for non-existent things to go and to not exist there. Let me read that again for you. By moving the singularity to a position where it is the embodiment of entropy, there now exists an alternative pathway or an alternative place for non-existent things to go and to not exist there. I know the languaging is a little bit difficult as I break from my notes, because I say that there is a place, but it is a no place where things can exist, but they do not exist, they non-exist. Got it? It is the no place where things that shouldn't exist non-exist, or where non-beings go to non-exist. Entropy is the complement of energy. Non-being is the complement to being. And although this writing presents these two forms of being as dualistic opposition, the form of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne itself represents non-duality, a transcendence of the dichotomy between good versus evil, light versus dark, being versus non-being, heat versus cold, movement versus stasis, and possibility versus non-possibility, volition versus non-volition. In terms of personality characteristics or organisms, there are some aspects that are supporting the continued life and existence of the larger time field. And there are some aspects of life which should not exist due to their negative influence on the continued life of the larger system context. Instead of simply allowing these negative influences to remain in existence and destabilize or destroy the time field, it is now possible to send those characteristics or energy aspects to a state of total entropy. The state of total entropy is not a punishment. It is not a hell. It is not a purgatory from religious mythology. Those states, hell or purgatory, would be better defined as the place where non-love consciousness exists when there is only love vibration, a state of existence that is one of being starved and frictioned by the very energy of love that should be feeding and sustaining the experiencer. All of this has to do with movement through time and energetic form, and is impersonal in its assessment, as opposed to anthropomorphic and religious in judgment. Specifically, a quote unquote bad person would suffer in hell, as opposed to a misshapen energy body that is being subjected to a flow of higher state energy that is corrosive and non-sustaining to the experiencer. So let me reiterate that in different words. There's a religious theological assertion of the structure of the consciousness cosmos that states there is a place called hell or purgatory, where things or people go to suffer and burn because they're somehow bad, unworthy, or desiring of punishment, needing to be punished for either just punishment purposes or for didactic purposes. And that is all very anthropomorphic and also filled with judgment. And the non-judgment way of being able to describe this is that those either concepts or energy features or organisms have a misshapen energy body, an energy body that is literally not shaped correctly. Like imagine a key that is not the right shape to be able to fit in a lock. Hey, Billy, good to see you. Thank you for being here. It's good to see you tuning in. Misshapen energy body that instead of saying it's worthy of punishment, when that thing that is shaped wrong is subjected to this enormous flow of energy that is known as love, it is experienced as a corrosive, painful, or non-sustaining experience to that key that is not shaped in the right shape to be able to be in the lock. It is very neutral. It's like saying that math equation states 1 + 1 = 3. 1 + 1 does not equal 3. If you put that into the truthfulness of the cosmos, the force of truthfulness as it flows through that erroneous equation is going to cause an enormous amount of friction. It's going to cause suffering and degradation of the structure of that thing which has a flaw or a false assertion as a part of its basic formfulness. And that flow of truthful, loving energy will at a certain point dissolve or degrade that wrongness, that wrong math equation, because it would end up being like a blockage in the fabric of the cosmos. That is very, very different than saying it's a bad person or a bad entity and it deserves hell as a punishment. So these are the layers of human, emotional, and religious feeling states that are placed upon these basic mathematical truths, okay? So very, very big what I'm trying to emphasize here. When I talk about entropy, I talk about a non-suffering state that is available and a pathway is available to be able to go there for consciousnesses and entities or math equations that are not perfectly structured. Let me read more. Entropy is actually an ancient concept as far as the structure of the true faith of the cosmos. It is the original direction that non-beings were supposed to be traveling in terms of their consciousness, energy, and trajectory through time. Both beings and non-beings were at the point of total energy, and the non-beings originally chose to go to entropy as their destination. However, the journey, instead of instantaneous, became a long process during which many non-beings changed trajectory and decided to try to then get energy and go towards the state of total energy. And it is that change in trajectory that has been the root cause of most of the suffering that is witnessed in the present state of existence in the cosmos. Simply put, not all consciousness is going towards energy as its destination. The Flying Rainbow Lasagne, although it is a new shape and a new creation, offers a new pathway to an ancient destination for non-beings or those aspects of consciousness that should not exist and have lost their way. Energy is not a punishment for them. I said it wrong. Rewind, rewind. Entropy is not a punishment for them. It is the successful culmination of a cosmic restructuring that heals reality. The experience of entropy is not uncomfortable. It is not a yearning for energy or a thirst or a hunger for food or experience. It is not a state of motivation. It is a state of non-being that does not wish to come into being. It is not a lonely or a disconnected place. It is a place of unity consciousness and divine oneness. But it is at the other end of the spectrum of being from infinite energy. It is the place of total energylessness and restful non-being and non-movement through time. I think I'm just breaking through my notes. That last part is very important. I talk about the structure of the cosmos, time being alive, cosmic structure being alive and self-sentient, and moving through time is the definition of being alive. And non-movement through time is this place of entropy, stillness, and non-being, stuff that doesn't exist and doesn't move through time anymore. So to an organism or aspect of consciousness that has had to find some way to get energy from other organisms who can eat freely from the frequency banquet, that is part of being a natural, alive, love-based organism. Entropy can be experienced as a profound relief from the constant hunt for new sources of energy. I really want to characterize this in this way as you or anyone, myself, embodying and doing the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. It's not like an adversarial dance where you're like, go to entropy, go to entropy, go to entropy, suffer, 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 any of that. That is really not the feeling state or motivation of doing the dance. And the aspects of consciousness or thought structures that are sent to entropy are being sent to a place that could be considered a paradise, a place that is a profound relief or a surcease of their profound discomforts at not being able to eat, like I say here, from the frequency buffet. The frequency buffet is based in love. That is literally what is the basis of this cosmos, and that these misshapen organisms or thought forms that do bad math cannot effectively access and eat and consume and be sustained by that energy of love. So their semi-existence up until this point has been one that has been filled with an enormous amount of suffering. And they have also created suffering for others, for those of us who do use energy as our food fuel by diminishing our access to our own energy. And that this Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a rectification and a rebalancing. Those who are supposed to eat energy and eat love and be in existence and experience and be in time go to energy. And those thought forms, characteristics, organisms, or systems that are not supposed to be in existence, that cannot eat love, that cannot directly access that energy, go to entropy. And the entropy is not the punishment of them, even though I recognize some of you may be scarred or wounded, or there might be trauma from your experiences within this world that has been out of balance. And the out of balance nature of the world is what necessitated my invention or spontaneous creation of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, so that you don't have to suffer, and so that these other organisms or thought forms similarly do not have to suffer. Ongoing theme: invention of Flying Rainbow Lasagne as tool for reduction of suffering, and making a clear distinction between that and the theological conception, assertion of hell or purgatory as a place where suffering occurs because consciousnesses or organisms have done their math wrong and not recognized it and not responded to the corrective efforts of the larger cosmic math teacher. All right. So when an errant, erroneous organism or thought form goes to entropy, it is actually a profound relief from their semi-existence that has only been sustained through a constant hunt for new sources of energy. Imagine that. Imagine never having enough and being constantly hungry and constantly thirsty and always fearful of where is the next meal going to come from and how can they make and generate more food for themselves or access or get something somehow, and then recognizing they don't have to effort, they don't have to try, they don't have to do anything, or it doesn't have to do anything. All it needs to do is stop utilizing or aligning with or trying to be a part of the world of energy and go into a state of entropy, which is this restfulness and peacefulness. It is a paradise state. So I really hope that that is coming across in what I'm sharing here. Entropy consciousnesses, or non-beings who are clinging to being, are flawed systems. They are not perpetual motion machines or apparatuses as energy beings are. The flawed systems lose energy as they move through time, through friction. They do not maintain their presence as perpetual energy beings do. And so the flawed systems need more and more contributions of energy to continue their existence in being. This is the real state of punishment: to always need more, to never have enough, to not be able to simply exist without the constant input of more energy. And that state of suffering creates the suffering of the energy beings who, without their energy being siphoned off to feed the entropy beings, would also live in a state of perfect comfort. I'm not sure if I mixed up my words. Let me say this again. That state of suffering of the entropy beings creates the state of suffering of the energy beings who, without their energy being siphoned off to feed the entropy beings, would also live in a state of perfect comfort and stability, never concerned with a lack of energy and moving perpetually through time to infinity. That's this. All right. Ending the suffering of the flawed systems by sending them to entropy or non-being ends their suffering and also ends the suffering of those people and systems that they fed upon. Okay, that's the concept of Flying Rainbow Lasagne as non-duality and energy and entropy and the origin or destinations of various different types of consciousness or characteristics or systems. All right. Now into another expression of truthfulness and divine intelligence of what the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is doing. The Flying Rainbow Lasagne shape brings together formerly divergent realms, such as the inside and the outside, rendering these definitions no longer relevant. This is another expression of Flying Rainbow Lasagne as non-duality shape. So this is an exciting aspect of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne and its behavior and effect upon reality, the folding of the fabric of space, time, and consciousness in order to bring together formerly divergent realms. So it is not merely the oscillation between two positions of the singularity, blending the inside and outside surfaces of the original toroid shape. Big, big, big. It is the comprehension that the singularity is the same singularity that exists throughout the fabric of reality. That basic point is the key to freedom of movement that Flying Rainbow Lasagne creates. There is only one singularity, and it exists at the, here we go. It exists at the center of all toroidal time structures. It exists at the center of each chakra or energy center of the body, at the center of every physical cell of the biological form. It is in the nuclei of your cells, and it is related to the structure and behavior of DNA. It is at the very center of every atom, at the center of each planet, which is the convergence point of all the magnetic fields, as I show in this painting all the time. Earth's magnetic field that is shaped like a torus, and the epicenter of that torus being the core of the planet where there is a singularity. At the center of each star. The star, our sun has the heliosphere, which is again a giant magnetic envelope that surrounds the presence, physical presence of our plasma star in the sky, and represents, the singularity at the epicenter of that giant magnetic field. And even into larger galactic superstructures, center of the galaxy. The galaxy is toroidal in shape, and at its center, there is a supermassive black hole, and the shape of that epicenter represents the singularity. These are all multiple nested singularity doorways or convergence points that are the same point. So to fully comprehend and embody these truths is to make it possible to warp or fold or stretch the fabric of time-space consciousness with the Flying Rainbow Lasagne dance. The singularity that is within one's own body being, which you can imagine as a point in your heart here, or in your forehead here, or in every single one of the trillions of cells within the nuclei of your biological structure, is the same singularity that is, for example, within a star, like I'm pointing out the window at the sun that's in the sky. There is no distance between these two positions of the singularity. There is no distance between the multiple positions of the singularity in its many places in time, space, and consciousness. And just as a very brief aside, I've been developing a new way of modeling and diagramming this truth, and that's what I've been sharing in the class curriculum that is called the Path of Light. So this, what I wrote in 2021, has evolved and is in a new generative structure of being able to even share that truth more deeply with you. So the sense that the basic truthfulness, that there is no distance between the multiple positions of the singularity in its many places in time, space, consciousness, specifically every single point of light that we see in the sky as an individuated star, or every single packet of light that we see and represent and know as a photon or a tiny slice of the larger ocean of light waveforms that are in existence, all overlaps actually in one place that is called singularity. Deep, deep, deep stuff. So I love sharing that with you. So please check out my Path of Light, which is coming up in early February. The same singularity that is within you is within the sun and is far away in physical space or within a person or an object from the past, which is far away in time. You got it? So both space and time make it look like the singularity is far away from you, but it is not far away from you. It is actually overlapping with you, and there is no space and no time between you and it. So the singularity between you and the sun looks like it's 93 million miles away, but it's not. There's no space between you and the sun when you really embody this truth. And how about the singularity that is within you and the singularity of someone who lived 10,000 years ago? You say there's 10,000 years of time separating you, singularity, from that singularity, but there is absolutely no time. There is no time that separates you because of the capacity of this dance to bend and fold the fabric of space-time so that both of these singularity points touch and overlap, all right? Back to FRL, the genetic dancing behavior of performing the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is more properly a remembering of this truth. There is no distance between self and other in terms of the singularity. It is all one overlapping point of time, space, and consciousness. As the FRL dancer experiencer embodies this truth, the fabric of time, space, and consciousness reforms itself into complex and extensive folded patterns. People and objects that were far away from the dancer in time or space now are folded so close that it is as if there is no distance between these FRL participants. Communication between formerly far distant people, objects, and realms now becomes possible. There is not a time lag as there would be for messages traveling at the speed of light. This is an essential development in order to have real-time communication between structures of various scales, both in terms of length of life, for not only does a human differ from a star in the size of its physical body, the human lifespan is also much shorter than that of a star. And as such, these differences in scale make it difficult or impossible for real-time communication to occur. A mere moment in the life of a star could be the entire lifespan of a human. And the time lag in the back and forth sharing of the conversation would mean that by the time a star answered the human life could already be over. So being able to embody the FRL and fold the fabric of time-space consciousness makes it possible for organisms and levels of consciousness that previously were separated from communicating effectively due to their varying physical and time scales are now facilitated in real-time connection and sharing of information while both organisms are alive and while that information remains relevant. Organisms of varying scales can work together more effectively as a result, sharing information and modifying their behavior in the cosmic symphony consciously so that all of their actions weave together in musical harmony. And no messages of crucial information go unheard as lost notes that arrive long after the end of the life of the person who needed to hear them. Those notes could even be considered the crucial, life-saving information that would have rectified a person's trajectory and extended their life. The FRL makes it possible for the musicians of the cosmic symphony of life to extend their song, the entire song of life, by sharing information and coordinating more effectively across vast distances of time and space. So this again relates to what I spoke about earlier, your own personal desires for continued life extension and experience, and the desires of the larger alive time field and reality structure that you live within. You want to stay alive, and the larger version of you, which is time and cosmic consciousness itself, also wants to remain alive. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagne's capacity to bend and fold time and space and transmit information and messages in real time while it is still relevant augments and exacerbates and makes possible more of this effective sharing of information so that you stay alive, which basically means like if you were driving down a road and you didn't get the information from the sun or the stars or some other level of awareness that said, step on the brakes or turn right here, and you crashed into another car and you died, if you had gotten that message, you would have known, step on the brakes or turn right, avoid the accident. And this is big. That's just one small, very physical example, but it could be avoiding quote unquote car accidents on a larger planetary scale or on a larger ecosystem scale, that if we receive that crucial information now while it is relevant to our journey, we can change the trajectory of what we are experiencing as opposed to have no more longevity. And this also relates to the entirety of time and the entirety of cosmic consciousness, that all of the consciousness level of being needs to be able to change its trajectory, push on the brakes or turn left or right in order to go in a different direction if destruction is impending. How to avoid impending destruction. So destruction avoidance is one thing, but then there's also musicians in a symphony who can communicate more effectively in their joyfulness and in their bliss and in their self-expression, making it possible to have an even greater and richer level of self-expression. So you're not just avoiding disasters, but you are also working so joyfully and joyously with other levels of consciousness to be able to create beautiful artistic reality structures, because there is no time lag in your communication and there's no loss of communication because something took so long to get to you that it became irrelevant by the time it actually arrived. Okay, on to the next idea structure. P.S. Thank you for being with me on the marathon. You're all doing amazingly well. I know this is a lot of intense information and intense communication, and let's see how far along we are on the journey. We are actually heading into the home stretch. A lot of important stuff is being shared here, and I thank you so much for your focus and your attention. Onward on the marathon. Are you ready? The Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a partnerless dance. And what does that mean? Unlike a waltz or a tango, it does not require two participants. The single individual oscillating between two or more singularity positions is enough to transform and reshape reality. So although the single dancer might connect with a singularity position within another organism, for example, a star or another human being, there is no requirement for volition of the other organism. That is very big. We do not need a partner in order to perform this dance of cosmic rectification. Now we go into questions of morality and cosmic ethics. Is this consensual? Are there boundary issues in terms of Flying Rainbow Lasagneing with another consciousness organism and thereby reshaping reality? The answer is that there are varying degrees of consent and intimacy in performing the FRL song or the frequency dance with a singularity position that resides within other organisms. Various levels of degrees of consent is what I'm talking about here. The first level of intimacy is neutral, where the Flying Rainbow Lasagne emitter is like a musician emitting a song or a frequency dance. And that is emanating outward via the medium of time, space, and consciousness. So that song is certainly affecting other organisms who are part of the living time field. And it is an indirect way of affecting other organisms and does not require direct consent, as it is part of the individual's right to emit the genetic music they choose to as an embodied, alive organism embedded in time. To break from my notes, the analogy that I use right now is one of a crystal. Like this crystal is in existence, it is vibrating, it is emitting these waveform frequencies and organized structures of energy that head outward and that move through the medium of time, space, and consciousness and affect reality. You do not necessarily have to get a specific request form, like, please sign this request form, then I will emanate through you. It is part of your basic right of being, which is this basic I am truth at the heart of cosmic law, the red chakra that states, I am, I exist. And as you exist, you are allowed to emanate your unique music. You don't need to have a specific permission to emanate into your environment. It is part of the presumption of your existence. So in musical instruments, there is a phenomenon known as sympathetic vibration, wherein if my hand is a guitar, the string of a guitar that is plucked, it vibrates, and the other strings of the guitar, which are non-local to the original string, vibrate as a result. And in guitars, this often results in spontaneous harmonics or musical structures of overlapping sine waves. Living organisms who are subjected to the Flying Rainbow Lasagne emissions or frequency impulses exhibit a similar phenomenon in their own vibrating strings of DNA and in their own behavior navigating the time field. Although these organisms might not be directly stimulated by contact with the FRL dancer, for example, speaking with or being touched by physically, or learning about the concept by reading or seeing a picture, the vibratory frequency behavior of their DNA and non-physical energy field is being affected by the non-local emanations and waveforms as they travel through or across the medium of time, space, and consciousness. Simply put, one dancer doing the Flying Rainbow Lasagne frequency vibration in a sea of non-dancers will cause everyone in that sea to dance and vibrate, even if the non-participants are uninterested or ignorant or even hostile to the Flying Rainbow Lasagne concept. All of their bodies and all of their lives are being affected by the dance. And there is no moral ethical conflict, as this is in alignment with the basic assertions of the right to exist and the right to individuated genetic behavior. It must be remembered that all alive organisms that use DNA are all emitting their own unique songs and frequencies, which have an effect on everyone else and their environment. So it is a level playing field of mutual or reciprocal effectiveness or effectivity. I don't know if that's the right word. Mutual and reciprocal effects on one another. The next level of genetic intimacy in terms of sharing the Flying Rainbow Lasagne frequency dance is for non-dancers who experience the Flying Rainbow Lasagne flowing through them and affecting them to entrain to the signal and begin to voluntarily move their own body parts along with the FRL dance that is being emanated to them and through them. They begin to dance along with the FRL movement, and their own genetic behavior changes more strongly as a result. And then the next level of intimacy from there is for an entrained listening dancer to create a conscious partnership with the concept of the FRL and the person emitting the original dance signal. This can be done by seeking out FRL information to read, or visual artwork to look at, or a music or auditory performance to listen to, or even by connecting telepathically to the source of the genetic song that they are feeling move through them. This signals a new level of consent in voluntary ingestion of Flying Rainbow Lasagne information. It is an invitation for the Flying Rainbow Lasagne to leap into their consciousness and body being. And then the next level of intimacy from there is for the listener to become a participant and learn how to leap into the higher dimension via FRL and to connect with the original emitter and receive information more than merely passively allowing it to come into them, to actually reach out for it. So let's go through those again. I don't want to spend too much time, but I think that it's worth going through those different levels in order to comprehend what is going on. The first level of genetic intimacy is just being in existence at the same time place that someone is doing Flying Rainbow Lasagne and being affected by it. Just being tangentially in an ocean where waveforms are moving through you, and some of those are Flying Rainbow Lasagne waveforms. And then for those who feel that sensation, the next level up is to actually entrain to it and to attenuate to or calibrate to that level of truthfulness and information that's flowing through you. Be like, wow, I'm hearing some music. let me listen more closely. And then upward from there is actually starting to dance along with. So initially you're just sitting there and these waveforms are moving through you and they're affecting you. Then you're like, something is affecting me. I'm going to choose to listen to it. And then after you choose to listen to it, you can make the choice to then begin to dance along with it, like to actually make your DNA mimic or emulate some of these sounds and movements that you're perceiving. And then upward from there, you can choose to consciously ingest and align with Flying Rainbow Lasagne ideas and energy forms. And that would be something like choosing to watch one of my videos or look at one of my paintings or read something that I've written or listen to my voice or listen to my music or something like that. Then upward from there is the sense of learning those patterns and internalizing them so effectively that you are able to dance in concert with me and with the larger time field and even begin to emit and emanate your own Flying Rainbow Lasagne capacities. When you begin to leap into a higher dimension yourself and live in the higher dimensional the higher dimensional level of reality that is created as an end result of the activity, behavior, and experience known as Flying Rainbow Lasagne. You go there or live there, even though it's not really a there, but you experience that being state. Okay. So just like being a beginner musician who plays along with their favorite established musician and then eventually writes their own songs and becomes established as a musician themselves, a person who initially dances along with the original Flying Rainbow Lasagne broadcast, learns by emulating and embodying those rhythmic patterns, then eventually is able to sustain and emit their own Flying Rainbow Lasagne patterns without the need of the original emanations, and they become able to do the dance all on their own and sustain the ongoing song of the new Flying Rainbow Lasagne patterns independent of the original FRL dancer. So as a brief aside, this is very similar to my musical journey in terms of playing the piano. Initially, as I came here as Aurora, I did not come here as a walk-in with piano playing skills or even a knowledge of Earth's music of this time place. I really love, appreciate, and admire the work of the jazz musician John Coltrane. Initially, I listened to his music. Like, I like this music. I'm going to entrain to it. I'm going to listen to it. Then his patterns went inside of me. I got a piano. I started to play with my fingertips along with his patterns, but I wasn't yet strong enough in my music to be able to play his patterns without his recordings. At a certain point, I could play his patterns without his recordings. And then at a certain point, I could innovate music that was similar to what he could do, but different, but based upon the patterns that he did in his life, internalizing it as my own music. I used him as a point of inspiration, a mentor, a model, a positive template, embodied those aspects that I felt were worthy of such admiration because I really think he's a genius as a musician, and then became an emanator of those same types of frequencies. But I don't, if you guys follow my music, you know, I don't just play music that is a rehashing of John Coltrane. Part of what I admire so much about him is that he's an excellent innovator. Every time he played a song, it was a little bit different every time. Like, he never played it the same way twice. So he already was very much like in alignment with the same artistic and tendencies that I have in terms of doing Flying Rainbow Lasagne, because every time you do the dance, it's different. Even if you say, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to play this song that has these basic chord structures, every time you do it, it is different. Every time I play my genetic piano here, it is different. And it has to be in response to the situation of the day. And then at a certain point, I didn't need the structural framework of John Coltrane's music and inspiration because I have internalized his patterning so much. But when you listen to some of the solos that I play in my music, you will hear the John Coltrane influence. You'll listen for it. You will hear it. Not only the chords that I choose, but also some of the amazing linear patterning, non-patterning that he did. I do as well, but do it in my own unique way. I bring this up because I want each one of you who is listening to and in training to the Flying Rainbow Lasagne idea, structure, and music, and being a part of my classes and watching these videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you for in training to what I have to share, what I have to offer. I would like for you to go through a similar journey. At first, you heard this music that was an internal music and you didn't even know what it was or where to find it. At a certain point, you found my videos or you found my music and you're like, that is something I want more of. You have taken the time to actually listen and focus and learn and ingest these ideas. And what I want you to do at a certain point is master and embody those ideas and those tendencies and those behavioral, energetic and genetic qualities, make it your own, and then take it and run with it and make your own unique music. So I don't play the saxophone. John Coltrane played the saxophone. I play the piano. So that's it. I have a different instrument. You guys have a different body, then you have a different instrument. Please, if you're interested, you are invited and encouraged to embody these Flying Rainbow Lasagne cosmic patterns of truthfulness and express them through your own unique instrument of your body, which includes your unique genetic fingerprint, your unique genetic pattern that is as unique as your fingerprint, your unique life pattern, your unique potentials for greatness in the world, your unique trajectory through time, as not everybody is born in the same time space coordinates, not everybody has the same destination or ways that we are getting there. Please take it and make it your own. And then I look forward to also collaborating with you. Like, let's jam, let's play music together. Thank you for allowing me that brief aside. When performing the Flying Rainbow Lasagne as a single dancer, it is possible to jump around in time, sending various body parts into divergent areas of time and space in order to connect with various organisms and play multiple notes at once, like a genetic chord. Let me show you what is a chord in music. C, E, G. That is a chord. When I play all of those notes together, sounds like beautiful music. The notes are related harmonically, meaning their waveforms are complementary. We play them all at the same time. So here's you as your present state of being in present ego structure of individuality. Here's a different organism that might have lived 10,000 years ago. Here's an organism that might live, 20 years in the future, but isn't here now. And with Flying Rainbow Lasagne, it is possible to oscillate the singularity that is within you to be present here now, also 10,000 years in the past, also 20 years in the future, all at the same time. And what you are doing is creating this complex time-based structure of telescoping singularities into an outward or away from and towards your present epicenter of consciousness. And what you're doing is receiving information or nourishment or light energy from various different vectors and directions that wouldn't have been available to you if you were only able to receive information and energy and sustenance from the participants who are available to you close to where you live in space and close to where you live in time. This means that you can learn more stuff and get more stuff and do more stuff as a result of connecting with various different levels of nutrition across time. So we're talking genetic chords now, all right? At first, there is the description of the simplified form of this movement, where the physical body is anchored in one time space, and aspects of the FRL dancer reach out or are emitted to connect with and receive information from another person or organism in another time place. And it is like taking scoops or spoonfuls of information from one era to another era. None of this robs anyone of anything. It does not disturb the genetic code of the person who is being connected with any more than the reading of words from a page disturbs the actual typeface of the book. The words remain after the information is read, and the genetic code remains undisturbed even after it is FRL'd with. Just breaking from my notes to confirm and affirm to this. We look at this through issues of consent, and we also look at this in order to say that you are not eating or stealing or taking from taking away from or destroying anyone or anything or any system by doing this. It is exactly the same as what I wrote. When you read the words off the pages of a book, you receive the light energy information, but the typeface remains. So this is not like going to someone else's leg and chomping it, taking a chunk of their flesh out, putting it inside of you and, grinding it up and putting it inside of you. No, you're not eating someone else's DNA, but you are reading the information in their DNA, or more properly, their energy field. Your energy field is like a book. It contains wonderful, complex levels of cosmic truth and information. Everybody has a unique book, and you get, through Flying Rainbow Lasagne, to oscillate with all of these other beings and organisms and systems that have this information and energy that's available that wouldn't have been available to you otherwise. But the key takeaway is that you are not stealing from them. They keep the pages of their book. Get it? Do you know what you never do? You never go to a library and tear pages out of a book. That is wrong. If you want to learn something, you go to a library, you handle the books properly, you don't distress them, you don't get bubblegum on the books or anything like that, and you leave the books in the same condition you found them so that the next person can come along and read them. You get it? But you internalize the information from those books. So each person, each organism has this amazing information and inspiration and viewpoint available to you. And you are able to take the relevant aspects of their inspiration and viewpoint and apply it to your own life. And that can be something, well, I'll go into this, what it can be, but I'll read my notes, but it can be something as the cure for a disease or the solution to a problem that you don't know about, but that they solved that problem 10,000 years ago. Just you didn't know about it because you don't have a way to call that person on the phone because they don't live here now. They don't have a telephone. But what you do have is this genetic, beautiful dance and energy oscillation that allows you to dance with that person's energy field in the time that they were alive and present in the world, and receive energy and inspiration from their journey and apply it to your own journey. So let me drink some more electrolytes and read a little bit more. Okay. The value of doing this is for the FRL dancer to receive ideas, forms, techniques, and information that might not be available from the organisms alive at their own time. Perhaps there is a cure for a problem or a disease that resides within a person from 10,000 years ago. It is now possible to access that information and integrate it into the present, or 10,000 years or 20 years in the future. Playing a genetic chord is like stimulating multiple genetic codes or portions of code from multiple timelines or realities across divergent timescales all at once. This makes it possible to create even more complex rectification waves, healing diseases or malformations, not only of the physical body, but also of events and the living time field itself. Now let's talk about the Flying Rainbow Lasagne and lateral gene transfer. So ordinarily, when a new genetic pattern spontaneously arises in an organism, the way to transfer that information to the rest of the genetically similar organisms is to physically procreate and pass down that new genetic pattern from parent to offspring. The process, This process is cumbersome and can take many, many generations before that genetic pattern spreads effectively throughout the species or similar organisms. Lateral gene transfer is more direct and immediate way to share and spread new genetic information, behavior, and ideas. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagne has been spread via lateral, aka horizontal gene transfer throughout Earth for about the past 20 years, since my spontaneous creation of this thought form and since my arrival and inhabitation of a physical presence known as the human existence here, all right? So the original vibrating strings of DNA that are emitting the FRL dance are affecting not only living adults at the time of emission, but also, I'm pointing to my reproductive organs, their unborn genetic potential, specifically sperm and ova, and the next generation as they develop in the womb. So just to reiterate on all of that, the Flying Rainbow Lasagne waveform dance is my unique genetic dance. I'm emitting it into the world, and it is bathing this world in a frequency that is affecting not only the adult organisms, and adult organisms that are humanoid, but also all of the organisms that are here, but also their reproductive organs, and that will affect the next generation and their offspring. Both the parental generation and the offspring generation are affected immediately by the original Flying Rainbow Lasagne emanation. There is also no age limit to being laterally affected by the presence of Flying Rainbow Lasagne vibrating on Earth. Even adults who are beyond the age of procreation are affected by it and are transformed internally. So for the past roughly 20 years that I've been on Earth, playing my genetic music, singing my genetic song, it's been affecting the fully formed adults in the behavior of your own DNA, and has been affecting the procreative cells of all of those adults, that then the next generation has also been affected by lasagna. And even if you are, again, beyond the age of being able to have physical offspring, the Flying Rainbow Lasagne has still been affecting the formation, behavior, and genetic expression of your DNA and of your energy field, just by my presence being here. And that, so to contrast, the traditional way of putting new genetic information into an organism, species, or lineage would be through what humans consider to be a mutation, a new, spontaneous, self-arising genetic patterning that happens in an organism who is born and who is unique from the rest of the organisms around it, who then, as they procreate and make the next generation, pass along that unique characteristic. And that can take many multiple generations for that characteristic to actually proliferate throughout the entire population. This lateral gene transfer is a much more direct way of transferring information to both your DNA and your energy field, and it affects the entire population, and it even affects other species. I'm human body affecting human species, also affecting dogs, cats, butterflies, redwood trees, microbes, and the planet herself. And this is because I talked about sympathetic vibration, the stimulation of one guitar string of an entire instrument affects, through the lateral transfer of these sound compression waves, the other strings to vibrate in the presence of that vibrating string. And then it is a complementary harmonic nature of these various different vibrating strings, then creating harmonic oscillations together. So I'm affecting the entire ecosystem by being here, and I'm affecting other human beings, and I've definitely affected the genetic formation of the entire generation that has been born in humanity over the past 20 years, but also not just the generation of human structured biological organisms. All of the biological organisms that are here have been affected by Flying Rainbow Lasagne and have had the Flying Rainbow Lasagne new formation available to them in terms of greater levels of degrees of freedom and rectification and healing, essentially, for longevity of themselves as organisms and as species. Your DNA is like a fabric of being. It is not a flat, unmoving object. It is instead a moving sculptural form that weaves throughout and around yourself as an object in time. Descriptions of how the Flying Rainbow Lasagne can bend or warp the fabric of space-time consciousness apply directly to this description of DNA as a moving fabric or a tapestry of time. The undulations, movements, twisting, turning, splicing, weaving, and embroidering of this fabric is the genetic behavior of an organism moving through time. These movements represent what can also be expressed as math sequences or equations or vectors or complex calculations performed using the biological, cellular, energetic computer with consciousness. There is a right answer to these complex calculations, and it is called continued life. Eventualities that terminate or do not return to the singularity or the place of emanation would be considered wrong answers, and there are many of them. No judgment is placed upon these wrong answer places.
So let's go.
Yeah. You're okay, I'm reading. There we go, no problem at all. No judgment is placed upon these wrong answer places or the consciousnesses who experience them. They are undeserving of punishment, and they do not deserve to be trapped or wasted as valuable points of consciousness. What they have done is to explore a time pathway that is incorrect or does not yield the right end result. As consciousness feelers or sensory organs of the living time field, they have explored a boundary where timelines end, a place beyond which there is no more time or life to experience. And from an extremely abstract perspective, this can be considered valuable information. However, this information gathering is not the overt purpose of consciousness submerged in time. That overt purpose is to maintain life, is to continue traveling in time on viable timelines or pathways, and to successfully calculate the parameters necessary to do so. This would be analogous to playing all the right notes in the song of life. Playing all the right notes in the song of life. Learning that wrong notes exist and what they are can be achieved indirectly through peripheral experiences. The central core timeline, which leads from and back to infinity, is what consciousness experiences directly. And the peripheral timelines and possibilities, the wrong notes, exist as an unexperienced, implied reality structure that is indirectly part of the totality of the time structure of one life, but which is not necessary to explore with consciousness directly. So to use this diagram, because we are here where you can see and sense these sculptures, this is the time vortex that I'm talking about in this writing. And when I say the central core timeline, I'm talking about there's only one timeline that both emanates from this area out into reality and then returns back to this convergence point as the destination. You are emitted from the source of consciousness and then also returned back to the source of consciousness. And there's literally only one central core timeline that does that, kind of goes up the center, kind of like a tent pole like that. The other timelines that are at various, divergent angles, they all end on the membrane of death. And again, to say that, where do I write this over here? Eventualities that terminate or do not return to the singularity or place of emanation would be considered wrong answers. There are many of them. No judgment is placed upon these wrong answer places. When I say no judgment, that means we're moving away from theological or anthropocentric viewpoints of who those versions of organisms or creatures are or what their lives are like. They are not bad or wrong people. They are not bad or wrong organisms. They do not deserve to suffer. But they have done their math homework incorrectly. And so they also act as those versions of self or versions of people or organisms exist as consciousness feelers or sensory organs of the places that the time field does not want to go, because those are literally dead ends, time pathways that do not continue in an infinite journey, not only back to the source, but through infinity, which is this giant figure 8 pattern. Some math equations do not lead to infinity, and that is what makes them incorrect. They're not worthy of eternal suffering or eternal punishment. Learning that the wrong notes exist is not the intention or reason for existence of you being here. You did not actually come here in order to play every single wrong note on the piano. You came here to only play the right notes of the music of life that keep you alive and sustain the larger time fabric and amazing embroidery of the tapestry of time. And that you can peripherally gain insight about the things that you shouldn't do. You can gain it indirectly. You do not have to directly explore those non-viable time pathways. You can instead, through time literacy, go directly to the correct time pathway and explore that one directly. So the central core timeline, that is actually the genesis of this shape, is what creates this vortex shape, and everything else is created indirectly as a consciousness consequence of that correct trajectory. So again, you or God, who is the creator of this amazing experience, did not say, let me create a lot of dead ends and a lot of wrong notes and a lot of incorrect math. No, the dead ends, wrong notes, incorrect math arise as a secondary, indirect relationship to the primary central core timeline. That is what is created as an intention of existence. That is what was meant to be in terms of being here. And there are sensory organs that can guide a consciousness through their own time structure of individual life, abrogating the necessity of exploring any of the wrong turns or pathways that terminate. The inner eye or third eye, and I always hold up, I always hold up this crystal right here, your inner eye, your Christ crystal. The inner eye or third eye, which is related to the activity and perception of the physical pineal gland, is one of the energetic sensory organs that helps to guide consciousness through time. It is, in one sense, a receiver that brings in energy emanations, and in another sense, a tendril that reaches out and feels or senses the surrounding landscape of future and peripheral possibilities in time. That time tendril can reach out and it can touch on other objects. Here, it's touching an object. It can touch on organisms. It can touch on concepts. And by coming into contact with them, it can taste a little bit of their qualities. This is one form of direct learning or direct ingestion of information. Which is also light or intelligence. Direct ingestion of information equals direct ingestion of light equals direct ingestion of intelligence from other items in the time field or from the living time field itself. The inner eye is a guidance system. It is not used to randomly taste or sense every single thing that is available. And there is a caution against doing so, as tasting information means to ingest small quantities of it, thereby being exposed to its qualities, which could be nourishing, but which could also be poisonous or antithetical to continued life. It is also similar to an eye that can read and is surrounded or submerged in a sea of information. And again, it is not advised to simply read everything, nor to read information out of order. One aspect of the definition of intelligence or organized information, as opposed to random or chaotic, meaningless or low information stimulation, is that it comes in the right linear order to make sense. Information must be perceived in the correct order for it to be valuable and nourishing, as opposed to worthless and incapacitating. This is analogous to reading a book's pages in the correct order, not jumping around randomly from page to page or from paragraph to paragraph. The inner guidance system is also an inner teacher. And when it is pristine and functional, it gives the user experiencer all of the correct orderly information as a stream of nourishment and intelligence that guides the organism effectively through time, without the necessity of exploring any timeline dead ends. All the way back to the infinity point. Wait, let me put down my drink over here. All the way back to the infinity point that originally emanated the organism, which is then continually propelled on its journey through more time. Got it? Make it back to the infinity point. It's not the end of your journey. You are continually propelled on your journey. And please note, this infinite journey is not meant to be an imprisonment or a punishment. And it is not intended as a consciousness prison or as a form of energy harvesting, wherein the experiencer is used as a living battery. Those are the negative or shadow inverted possibilities or cautionary tales that are not the original intention of the system of time and embodiment or experience at all. I joke about the pamphlet of what life is supposed to be. Imprisonment is not what this chakra system or time field or experience experiment was intended to be at all. The infinite journey through time is meant to be comfortable, enjoyable, pleasant or pleasurable, even blissful, a journey of growth and learning and self-cultivation on the level of the soul. And you can read here soul as trajectory of consciousness over many multiple embodiment experiences, the many layers of being achieved through extended time journeying, and the provenance of the masterpiece art object that is your body being. The undulating fabric of DNA is an expression of that soul provenance. It is not merely an indicator of physical characteristics or biological genetic heritage. It is instead a complex blockchain or information storage device over grand time scales, and is part of the expression of the correct calculations of consciousness successfully navigating through the living time field on its infinite journey. DNA is not synonymous or interchangeable with the energetic truth of reality, but similar to the symbolic language of math, is a molecular analogy for the pure truth and intelligence of the world of uninterpreted as matter light. I want to read it again for you. DNA is not synonymous or interchangeable with the energetic truth of reality, but similar to the symbolic language of math, is a molecular analogy for the pure truth and intelligence of the world of uninterpreted as matter light. It is also a projector of reality, DNA, a receiver of light information, and a sender of light information or imagery. All right, on to the next idea structure. We just have a little bit more left to go. Thank you for being with me on this marathon. When to do the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a cosmic time phenomenon and can be compared to a naturally occurring weather phenomenon. Many conditions contribute to its spontaneous occurrence and its sustained length. There is the psychic weather, or levels of calm or turbulence in the larger fabric of time-space consciousness through which the FRL waves propagate. And many factors contribute to the psychic weather or ongoing activity of that fabric, including individual and group psychosocial patterns, available energy, ongoing traumas and rituals, both benevolent and malevolent. There is the physical weather. Sunlight, pointing at my window here, is a major aspect of the FRL and could be considered the fuel or the food that makes an organism accrete enough light to spontaneously leap into a higher dimensional state. Sunny days make it easier. Cloudy, rainy, overcast days make it more difficult. Please note, it is important to comprehend that at a certain point, the FRL dancer becomes advanced enough in their practice to connect to the sun non-locally. And this makes it possible to receive sunlight as food, inspiration, energy, and information through a layer of clouds, or even if the sun is on the other side of the planet, nighttime, or even if the sun is obscured or limited by some form of technological distortion. When the advanced FRL dancer becomes non-local, it is possible to gain energy and nourishment from a variety of places that are not here now. So to break from my notes, in exactly the same way, you can use the FRL as an oscillation between yourself, an embodiment here now, and other organisms or consciousness structures in other time places to get information, inspiration, ideas, and energy from them. Let's say it's a cloudy, overcast day. The sun is there, but there are clouds coming between you and the sun. You can use Flying Rainbow Lasagne at these higher levels of advanced embodiment to jump beyond the clouds, jump up and over the clouds, and get to the sun anyway, and take your scoops of information and inspiration nonetheless. Or what if the sun is blocked out by chemtrails, particulates in the sky, or lensing arrays, or any other technological impediments or inhibitor structures? You can likewise vibrate past those inhibitor structures and get the nourishment of the real sun. What if it is nighttime? Can you fly Rainbow Lasagne at night? Yes, you can. If the sun is on the other side of the planet, you can still, here is you, here's the planet, here's the sun over here. Vibrate around and get to the sun anyway. And this all requires energy and expertise. So I'm an expert flying Rainbow Lasagne. I've been doing it for a very long amount of time. I evolved in my practice to be able to be non-local and vibrate past clouds. But sometimes if my Flying Rainbow Lasagne dance is not that strong, or if I don't have that much energy, I don't have enough gas in my car to make it go. My God, it's a cloudy day. I don't have, only have like, I'm on empty in my gas tank, and it takes a lot of energy, gas, to be able to do this jumping back and forth. So I say this to you so that you are not unduly harsh or critical in your self-judgment as like, I'm an expert lasagna, or how come I can't get infinite energy, or how come I'm bummed out on days when it's rainy or cloudy. Please be kind, generous, self-forgiving, self-compassionate, and understand that even the finest car, like whatever, a Lamborghini or something like that, can be stuck in the driveway if it's out of gas. All right. So having the energy to create this super fast oscillation and get more energy is itself in achievement, and is not something I think that you can always expect to sustain. Now, this part is emphasized in my notes. This can even be experienced as the capability to receive food nourishment or medicine by taking in a molecular component directly into the body form, bypassing the need to eat it with the physical mouth and then metabolize it. This feels like eating with the eyes, or breathing in the essence of food structure, or again, some medicine which may be in a bottle and it is never physically ingested, but it is molecularly received by the body form. And this non-locality ability can be used to remove substances from the body form also, or to cleanse aspects of both the physical and energetic structure. It becomes possible to FRL and vibrate out substances, energies, or molecules that do not belong within the individuated organism for a variety of reasons. So those two things are advanced uses for FRL practitioners who have really learned how to do this. And I've been doing them for the past several years when I have enough gas in my car. So let's say one example is fun. I do this with pastries sometimes at the cake shop or whatever. Don't tell anyone. But I look at all these beautiful pastries, and I just, with my eyes and with my breath, breathe in all of the amazing energy and sustenance of them, not eating them with my physical body, but I am taking in the nourishment and the energy of them directly through Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and I eat physical food as well. I want to reassure you that, but sometimes the energy that I require for my various different psychic maneuvers is more than the amount that my stomach can possibly contain. And then I'm like, I'm going to need some more energy for this. And I look at the pastries and I just kind of bring it all in, or the meat case or whatever it is. I've done this at Whole Foods. Yes, I have done that. I have also at times required some type of medicine that was in a bottle on a far distant shelf in another room. And I vibrated to that, brought the medicine inside of me instead of actually getting up and going physically over there to the bottle and ingesting it. And I also have used the Flying Rainbow Lasagna for the reverse activity. If there is some pollution or poison that is inside of me that doesn't belong inside of me, to Flying Rainbow Lasagna it out of me, getting molecular structures or pathogens or parasites out of me. And again, this requires a lot of energy. Like you might need to eat a pastry case, a case of cakes in order to be able to do all of this. But if you can get enough energy, it is quite an amazing and effective thing to be able to do. And again, these augmentations and opportunities arose out of necessity. This is the way that the cosmos works. So these were not casual occurrences that I did just merely as a matter of course, like, I think I'll just go and do this thing, that really were instead because there was a requirement, a circumstance arose that required me to do these things. And so that is why I did them. So please note that the Flying Rainbow Lasagna can be used in all of these extenuating circumstances. And that's just like the innovative music of John Coltrane. You might not expect, you have something unexpected happens and you play this or that in your genetic music in response to the unexpected things that the other musicians are doing in the music. You're like, that sounds weird. I'm going to have to somehow play along with that. And you self-augment and figure out new ways to do this. And I bring these up as examples so that you, as you become an advanced practitioner, at a certain point, you will have to augment or move beyond what the patterns that you've already learned. You're going to have to innovate, and you will innovate as the circumstances that you are surrounded by dictate or encourage you to have to innovate as well. So hold on one moment. And that is what I write as I'm coming to the summation of my presentation here. The exploration of the biophysical and energetic significance of the non-locality of advanced FRL dancing is still ongoing. For example, how far away can a substance be received from? How far away are the cakes from you? How much can be ejected? How much toxins can be ejected and over what period of time? And for how long can the FRL activity of ingestion and ejection be sustained? The answer to many of these considerations rests in the energetic metabolism of the FRL dancer. When the activity level is increased to high levels of vibration, the reach of the ability to receive becomes greater, and the amount per moment that can be processed and ejected increases, and the length of overall time that it can be sustained increases. So as a brief aside, the analogy that I'm getting a way to share this concept with you right now is the sense of like your internet connection. The more energetic metabolism you have for Flying Rainbow Lasagna, the more information you can receive, more bytes per minute, or the more pollutants you can eject outward, and the longer you can sustain that activity. But it takes energy to do all of these things and to maintain your energy. This is one of my favorite things to be able to share with you. This concept now, at a certain point, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna energetic metabolism increases to a level that it becomes solid state. And it appears to be a single, integral, non-moving entirety, but it is still vibrating and moving and emitting a song, but its apparent internal movements have increased to the point of solidity or a coherent state that is maintained without apparent empty spaces or movement. So what I'm speaking about here is your body as a time crystal, performing Flying Rainbow Lasagna or embodying it as a multi-layered experience across time And initially, like in a multiple exposure, long exposure photograph, you might see like the lasagna is here, but then it's here, but then it's here, 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 here. And if you do that enough over time, at a certain point, your entire visual field will be 100% lasagna. That is what would be considered solid state or a crystal, that this crystal is actually vibrating, but it actually looks to be a solid object. It is actually made out of solidified coherent waveforms. At a certain point, you become a lasagna crystal made out of many, many, many multiple overlapping lasagna experiences and sessions or daily dances or ongoing metabolisms where there's just 100% lasagna. And it doesn't even look anymore like you are a thing that is moving. It just looks like a thing that is solid, but it is moving internally, but it is moving at such a fast rate that it cannot even be perceived as being moving. That is an amazing achievement when you get to that level, and it happens sometimes after decades of dancing and self-cultivation. Please keep in mind, though, that all of these uses or activities of the FRL dance still take place under the original definition of a naturally occurring phenomenon that arises due to the context or circumstances and necessity, and not merely out of arbitrary ego desires. So the activity of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne and its reverberating consequences throughout the time field are meant as rectifications, as well as spontaneous expressions of pure joy or beauty. It is important to emphasize that they happen within a larger context, and they serve the context, giving it what it needs. How much FRL and when to FRL are often determined by the needs of the context or the larger living time field. So although it is important to make Flying Rainbow Lasagne a constant inner metabolic state and a daily practice, there are times when it is either not possible or not practical to do it, or the FRL expression is limited in some way. For example, there might not be enough available energy, or there might be social, political, or legal limitations. And when there is a lag in the FRL emanations over some period of time, this is very important, as I reassure you here, this does not negate or destabilize the entire FRL project of creating an artistic time crystal with many layers of activity and artistry added over many days or years. It doesn't ruin the whole painting if you don't paint a layer on it for one day or even for many days. In the event that the Flying Rainbow Lasagne activity is missing or limited for some amount of time, at the next available opportunity that FRL may be experienced or performed, the rectification happens. A complex calculation that takes into consideration the missing or undanced time, and also the needs of the present state of the here now moment or time field, and the activities of the frequency movement catch up to or correct the trajectory in time of both the organism experiencer and the larger time crystal itself, within which the dance movements are being performed. Sometimes the FRL is like a hurricane or a tornado, a field of immense power that has a momentum which is beyond the control of the ego individuated experiencer. The forcefulness of the FRL field must be emitted and continue for a duration that is beyond the mere desire or ego convenience of the experiencer performer. And this is one reason why it is not a regular dance to perform or commodify. And it is also so difficult to schedule or control the expression of the FRL or to do it on command. At other times, there is minimal energy for it, or minimal energy need for the FRL. It does not have to be incredibly powerful or of a long duration. It might exist as a brief flash or a shimmy of energy that flows through the time field, and all of that is acceptable because that is what the moment needs. This is part of the balance of experiencing and performing an activity that is the definition of non-ego state. Although the individual organism makes available both their time and their physical, energetic body form to participate in the dance, They do not dictate when or exactly how much or exactly how long or even the results of the movements. The FRL is an unpredictability movement, and as such, one can input desires and wishes and intentions, which should be positive or focus on rectification and healing. However, the outcome of those FRL movements will always be a surprise or the result of the unpredictability factor expressing itself. This is the great strength of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, unpredictability. The results of performing the movement cannot be anticipated by either the experiencer or some outside observer who might wish to limit, harm, exploit, or control the Flying Rainbow Lasagne-ing organism itself or its output in time. The FRL is a dance of pure intention. It is not to be exploited or its results commodified, and the unpredictability factor is one of the strengths or protective features of it as such. Other factors that contribute to the expression of FRL or its powerfulness or duration include the health and mobility of the physical energetic form itself. A big part of the actions of rectifications of the FRL movement is the healing and improvement of the participant experiencer themselves. So the very first part of the FRL movements are devoted to supporting, sustaining, and rectifying the structure of and increasing the health of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne performer. And it is like saying the first notes of the musical song that are played are devoted to nourishing and fine-tuning the instrument itself that is emitting the music so that it can continue to play. So some Flying Rainbow Lasagne sessions may spontaneously arise, either using the whole body or individuated body parts as the need for healing or body rectification arises, and sustained for the amount of time that the body needs for it to be improved and its position in the time field corrected to a position of health and continued existence. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. If there are questions or comments or things that you would like to share or add, now is a beautiful time to be able to do that. And I know I have these extensively prepared notes, but I did speak a little bit extemporaneously. I hope that, oh, you're so welcome, Flower. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all of your own insights and embodiments on this. I'm very, very happy to share these patterns with you, and also for you to then share with me your journey of what you've been experiencing as you've been dancing in these new patterns. One of the big emphases that I want to make on this is the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is not an egocentric tool, but is a tool that is focused on the rectification of the entirety of time and of existence. And because it is unpredictable, it is not possible if someone said, like, I'm going to hold you in a box, put a gun to your head, and see if I can make you lasagna, unless I'm going to hurt you unless you make me do lasagna. It doesn't work that way. Or if someone tempts you and says, I'll pay you $5 if you lasagna for me on Tuesday at 3 o'clock, it's like, that's also not going to work. And any of these things about requiring predictability or commodification, and commodification is not only of the dance movement itself, but also relates to its outcome. What if someone rich tries to tempt you and says, I will pay you $1 million if you will Flying Rainbow Lasagne into existence, blah, blah, blah thing for me? Or what if the government comes along and says, I want you to Flying Rainbow Lasagne, blah, 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 for the government or for this nation state or for this army or for this intelligence agency? None of those things work, because that Flying Rainbow Lasagne simply does not function in that way. And similarly, if someone came along and tried to say, I'm going to stop you from Flying Rainbow Lasagne, it's too much, you're too this, you're too that, it's not allowed in some way, that would not destroy your entire Flying Rainbow Lasagne effort. That would not make your painting suddenly invalid and throw it out the window. The very next time that you would have the opportunity to be able to Flying Rainbow Lasagne, there would be the corrective event within your own lasagna experience or within your own painting. I say it here in my writing, the undanced time. If you were supposed to be dancing for a particular number of days and you couldn't dance there, you have undanced time. and that the very first moment that you're able to dance again, you dance the rectification of all of those things that you weren't able to dance into being during whatever time of distress, turmoil, or inhibition. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is an amazing, complex concept that has many, many fail-safe devices, everything from making it non-commodifiable and non-exploitable to something that is not a regular dance to be performed. And you guys know that I do have a dance movement group or class, for lack of a better word, but although we gather on a regular schedule, the dance is different every time, the psychic weather is different every time, and it is never about commodification of the output and intentions that go into the dance. So I don't really have to go into defensiveness on that. Let me read. Amy McGinnis, thank you for being there. She says, so appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for that recognition. I'm so pleased that you found my work and are able to be here today. And Flower says, is death just an expression of a lack of information, something hidden from us? So death, as I define it, thank you for your question, is running into this membrane of death over here. These are the dead ends of time. And for my expression of what death is, it is an incorrect calculation that arises from this calculating the series of not only biological expressions, but where you are in space-time. So death can be the result of a disease, incorrectly calculated biological expression, or death can be the result of incorrectly calculated positioning in space-time. Maybe you're positioned on a busy road when there's a giant truck coming at you that smashes you into pieces. They are incorrect calculations that happen. So I don't know if we would call it a lack of information, but I would say it is a lack or error in the organizing principle of information as it is expressed and embodied by the individual. Not necessarily in ignorance or something that is hidden from us, but in incorrect structuring. And everything about what Flying Rainbow Lasagne is about a corrective experience of restructuring reality. And that begins with, in your individuated experience, restructuring your own body and your own reality. But please know that because you are a part of this symphony of life, as you restructure your own existence and reality, you will have a rippling emanation effect through all these other organisms and layers of reality, and you will be fixing things. So my dance over the past several years has been very focused on the fixing, healing, and rectification. My dance in previous years here on Earth has been very much about not only joyful self-expression, but as I was talking about, that type of playing a genetic chord, connecting with various different aspects of self across time to be able to receive inspiration or information from, or activate empowerment from various different levels of being that are different types of organisms. So the rectification is kind of like bucket and a mop usage of Flying Rainbow Lasagne. Like, someone got fingerprints all over this, like get the Windex, spray it down, wipe it off. It's kind of one of the least interesting ways to apply Flying Rainbow Lasagne to your life. So I want you to know, like, we focus a lot on healing and restructuring of your physicality presence and of your body. That is like the very beginning of what this dance is. So for me, like maybe the first, if my body is healthy, the first 5 minutes or so is kind of like stretching out tendons, stretching out my back, fixing and healing things that need to be restructured. And then like, now we get to the fun stuff, which is often collaborating with levels of consciousness that might be far distant in space or far distant in time, and really like playing fun, cool music with the rest of the symphony of life. So I bring this up because the nature or definition of what the past couple of years of existence has been like on this planet or in this world, very challenging. There's a lot to be healed. There's a lot of rectification, and we've pretty much been in cleanup mode a lot of the time. But I want you to know, just like in your house, like sometimes you have to devote a day to housework and you're like, we're going to scrub, we're going to mop, we're going to do this and that. But that's not really the same as a joyful day that I might spend doing nothing but painting or doing nothing but working on music or singing or something like that. These are different modes. And in this presentation here, I really focused on lasagna. I really want to emphasize equally lasagna as tool for creative, collaborative, reality structure expression, not only tool for fixing and healing of your physical body, avoiding death, and trying to like clean up all the muddy footprints that are in our world, because there are definitely a lot of muddy footprints. I'm open to any other questions. And again, I thank you and applaud and cheer for everyone who stuck with me through this 3-hour intensive presentation. And if you are interested in accessing my notes, beautiful FD says, thank you, so exciting. Yeah, because I got to tell you guys, like if you've come to my work within the past 2 years and we're kind of like in house cleaning mode, I really want you to know, like, please stick with it, because this Flying Rainbow Lasagne experience is meant to be about so much more expansive, much more freeing, much more creative than merely just fixing up stuff that's going wrong in our world. Flower says, the classes have changed my life. I adore you. Thank you for saying that. It means the world to me. And I'm so pleased to hear that, because that is part of my journey being here. And as I described in what I presented today, I know that I am affecting people's minds and their consciousness and their trajectory just by being here. It means so much when people actually look at my artwork, listen to my music, really entrain to my ideas, and then internalize it. And then I hear that it actually changed your life, gave you inspiration, or moved you in a positive direction. And then you begin to generate your own lasagna patterns, which was and remains my motivation for being here. Why am I here as a walk-in? Why am I here? In order to share this through art and music and teaching, always with the intention of increasing your own consensual partnership, freedom, and self-expression. That the people that are interested in aligning with my ideas and energy, I really am here to be able to share with you, bringing you to greater levels of your own empowerment, greater levels of your own freedom. And I love to see people like kind of growing their wings and flying, getting going and flying. Flower says, FRL has opened up new pathways of expression and confidence. Amazing, amazing to hear. And I'm so pleased and gratified to hear that. I know this is a Saturday morning presentation, so we don't have as many people tuned in who are long-term FRL dancers and participants and people in the class. So we might not just be hearing that many sharings like this, but my love and encouragement goes out to everyone who's in the FRL dance class, who is in the intellectual sharing class, and who listens to my music and is finding it transformative, uplifting, and giving you greater freedom. Melissa says, I have literally seen my life move in directions because and in result of encompassing the FRL. I appreciate Aurora and her journey forever much. Thank you so much, and love received and love back to you. That is just amazing to hear, and also like hugely encouraging. I'm so pleased when I hear about people's life structure and life trajectory going in amazing new directions as a result of this. Amy, I'm not sure if your name is Amy or Ami, so apologies if I'm not pronouncing you correctly. It says, can we catch the replay? Yes, indeed, you absolutely can. So I'm recording all of this and I will share it on YouTube. I will share it with patrons on Patreon, and I will share it with everyone who's in the FRL dance class and everyone who's in the regular class. As I said, this is a 3-hour intensive of a lot of the things that I talk about over many, many months in some of my other structured classes. And also everything that I wrote here today is available as the final chapter in the PDF that I'll share the link with this video to, that is known as the flight manual. Flying Rainbow Lasagne, Manual for Flight, that has all of my class notes, which are much less grammatical than this particular writing that I shared with you here. Some people benefit and learn from very well reading and learning through their eyes, as opposed to only hearing auditorily and what I'm speaking about. So you can read it independently. You can read it while you're watching this video too. Ami says, amazing. Thank you. Thank you. You're so very, very welcome. I'm so pleased. Truly, I'm so pleased to share this with you. And I feel like what I wrote, and the reason why I shared it almost verbatim in my notes, is because I wrote that in a state of very pure clarity and very pure intention of being able to boil down the essence of what is Flying Rainbow Lasagna and give it as this very focused and concentrated intellectual framework. And I think it comes across really well. So it's worth it to read the PDF. And thank you for everyone who took the time to go through it and watch this video, the marathon of consciousness here. And definitely now I'm encouraging everyone, like after you have read, looked at, watched, and trained and everything like that, please put on some awesome music. Please do your lasagna. And you can also, you can lasagna while you are exercising, while you are going out for a walk. I'm going to take my dog. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to walk underneath some trees. We're going to lasagna with our environment. We're going to lasagna across space time. It is meant to be joyful, freedom, self-expression, positive, even as it is sometimes choreful and house cleaning. Sometimes we have to clean and organize the cosmic infrastructure, but it is also meant to be expansive in freedom and creativity as well. So my profound gratitude to all of you, and my very real profound love to all of you is my job joy, my cosmic purpose for being here and to write this and to share this with you. So I'm so pleased and so gratified. And thank you to the people who spent their Saturday morning or afternoon with me being a part of this class. And thank you to everybody who catches this in the archive.